Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
I don't think he had that much time to change. He wasn't wearing anything like that when he got out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
That's not him. I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy.
I don't think that's him, Mark. I don't think that's him.
All right, there we go. I was going to use your earlier comment, but we'll use this one from Mystic Mama. Hello, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Mystic Mama, first in chat again this morning. Repeat offender. She knows the punishment, the prize that's associated with that. Congratulations, Mystic Mama. You have earned yourself another entry on your record as the winner of all things IP related for the day, at least for half of it until we break at lunch. But good morning, RA. It's going to be a great day today. She says it will be a great day with you at the helm of the internet and me here on this end and all of you out there listening. This is going to be fantastic. KR got the memo. Dark purple. I'm wearing it. Thank you for that. That was a good idea. Hang on. Hey Siri, turn my lights purple. We're gonna have to match. There we go. Now the lights are purple behind the TV.
Not a camel.
Good. Not a camel. Good to have so many people here in their seats already. This is awesome. This is really good. Let's see, Ryan Applesnapple. I hear you're in line, or at least make an attempt to get into court today. Not in line right now, because that would be insanely early. Just for the record, I like that you're awake right now. I don't think you have to be in line right now. I don't think there's that much pressure this early in the court. Maybe for the verdict, it might come to that point. But we'll see. So Ryan Applesnapple possibly going to be in court with us today, or for us today. We'll have an addict in the courtroom observing. Keep your fingers crossed for him that they allow the public in on this one. Collection of good souls here. You are not wrong, Lost Poet. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. We have. I know we have at least one birthday, but I have to delay till 10 o'clock. Till 10 o'clock because that's when they show up. So remind me not to forget the birthdays. We might have to do it later. But we do have some birthdays and anniversaries coming up, or at least a birthday coming up.
Because he's the guy.
A funny from Cass. Let's see. I lived in Holland, Michigan, and had an old Saab convertible. Is it Saab, right? Is that how you pronounce it? My daughter picked out an email address.
Correct?
Top down in Tulip Town. Okay. Yeah. How old was your daughter when we chose that? No, it was topless in Tulip Town. That's even worse. That's even worse. Convertibles, though, yes. Top down is the way to go. I will tell you the one thing better than a convertible is riding a motorcycle because it gets you out of the cage altogether, and it really just puts you in the air with no protection around you whatsoever. So as long as you don't crash, it's wonderful. We vibe with our tribe. RA is the leader. He said that Tony you can always tell when someone new comes in and doesn't get how things are in here. They come in all prickly and usually smooth right out. Gail, thank you guys for doing that. It is wonderful. It is awesome to see somebody new stumble across the channel or get referred by a friend and be here for the first time and be like, whoa, this is different. I like it. You guys do an amazing job there. Thank you so much for that. All right, scrolling, catching up. I'm way far behind. Everyone's taking a seat. That's wonderful. Fancy new intro. No, I tell you, I push new buttons every time, and I figured this time I was going to do all the canine stuff. The only one I didn't do was
There's a canine.
That one. I think I got.
Yeah, I don't think this is the guy either. But what are the odds that they're scooping people up outside of this liquor store?
In Ivan of you, what are the odds they're scooping people up outside the liquor store? They'd never do that, would they? They'd never do that.
That's not him.
That's not him. All right.
Because he's the guy.
Let's see. We have. We're going to have to hold on the birthdays for about an hour, at least. Driving a dog sled.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
There's a lawsuit.
Yep, there's a lawsuit. Dusty Den. Okay, we've got Dusty Den. I might need to write these down somewhere. Where's my notepad on here? I had a... Oh, there's a buffer sound, which means I'm already messing up. Oh, no. It's good. I saw it right as you typed this, I think. You probably typed it first, and then I saw it. But Dusty Den is going to be on the birthday list, along with Parrot. So... So we're gonna hold tight, Dusty. You're gonna have to wait for just a little bit, if that's all right. If a little, sometimes, the anticipation makes the delivery even better. So maybe that'll help a little bit. Let's see. Thanks, guys. I've been wanting to spend my birthday with y'all. Well, now we can. We though are honored to do that, Dusty Den. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for of all the places you could be on your birthday, being here. It's an honor. Thank you very much. Okay, a lot going on in social media, a ton going on in social media about the Gannon Stauch pictures. That this is I think you guys know where I stand on this, because you guys we followed this trial together. In Letitia Stauch's trial, when images were being shown, and there were images that were shown early on, without being blurred, without anything else, that even at that early point. I made a decision and said, this is not what we do. This is not us. This is not, although there are some people who do want to see them, and I'm not criticizing them. Okay, there are some people who want to see evidence and consider everything, and have the ability to look at some pretty gruesome pictures. I mean, crime scene pictures. The jury obviously gets to see those. I'm not saying those people are wrong for wanting to look at them, but I think the way that a specific YouTuber handled the situation was wrong, and it paints us all in a bad light is the problem, because now you have the phrase YouTuber, true crime lumped together, and this is what people think of, is that we're out here exploiting every hurt and pain for personal gain. That's not us. I think you know where I stand on that. So some people were asking. I just wanted to let you know. I don't know. I don't even know if it's against the rules. Honestly, it may be perfectly legal for her to do that. I think it would be very difficult to do that and have them monetized. I don't see how she can gain, but she's charging some. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you know in the future if an issue comes up like that, you know where I'm going to fall. Okay, so. Just because information is available and a FOIA request will turn up something possibly salacious, we're probably not going to go there. I love true crime. I love all aspects of this, and sometimes we see some pretty and hear some pretty gross depiction of injuries and things like that. But anyway, that's where I stand. I think it is allowed. I think it gives everyone a black eye. Everyone in the true crime community, honestly, gives us a black eye for how it's handled. Exploiting the injuries of a child in what's essentially a peep show is wrong.
There's a lawsuit.
In my opinion. Anyway, yeah, and have some respect for the families. I mean, there's some times where we have to make decisions and say, look, this family is being dragged through hell, okay, and some of that is going to be in the public, and we're, in a way, I realize we are, in a small way, part of that, but how we conduct ourselves and how we say, look, as a member of the public, we have an interest in justice, we have an interest in seeing resolution, want to see the court system, the processes play out as they should, and observe that. We can do that without crossing a line, and doing it in a respectful way that honestly I think can be done in a way that the family would appreciate us being there and their support. So that's what we're going for. Have an easy day. The actual amount she paid, it's generally set in code or rules. Say, for instance, when I just went to the courthouse to get some documents from a local trial last week, they say, okay, anything you want copied out of the file, and you can basically copy anything you want out of the file, and it's a massive file. They say it's $2 for the first page and then 25 cents for every page thereafter. And then if you want it certified, it costs X number of dollars to have it stamped and certified and all that. So the amount Colorado earned, it wasn't really like an earning. It's just their fee for processing, and no matter what it was, if it was a blank page, they would have charged the same amount. So I'm not blaming Colorado for doing that, although if they were sealed and shouldn't have been released, that's a different story. Let's see. It's Dane Mama's birthday as well. Okay, so we've got a couple birthdays, but we've got to wait till 10. I'm sorry. Dane Mama, we'll get you included on the birthday song, but if you can wait till 10. And when anyone sees Parrot, jump in. We'll go ahead and do the birthdays at the next available break if I get a reminder. All right. Let's see. Lisa Medina. How many birthdays do we have today? There are birthdays everywhere. Hang on one second. Lisa Medina. Well, we were up to 4 so far. Okay. We will. Today's, I guess, a popular day to be born. I'm not sure why everyone chose today, but that is awesome. July 13th. Not unlucky at all, even if it falls on a Friday. Let's see. Angie, I think we're on the same page there. Hopefully that answered all the questions that you guys had and sort of lets you know where I stand on that. Bug Dugger, I've been here since the 8. Y'all have helped me more than you will ever know. Thank you for being my second family. Bug Dugger, thank you so much. I appreciate you being a part of the family. It would not be the same here without you. Awesome to have you here. Congratulations on your 2-month membership and that new color of courthouse by your name. I just about choked on air. That was the weirdest sensation ever. Speaking of choking on air, last night I had a little a youth activity we went to, and we were actually prepping for the camp that we're going to be on next week. And so we're having the youth, the boys, set up tents, and because it's not something we do a lot. We don't do a ton of camping, and so we wanted to make sure the tents worked, and so we wanted to make sure they would be able to set them up without us doing it for them. You know, it's a win-win for me, and so we brought a couple tents out there and we're setting them up, and we had a little race and everything. And afterwards, we had a bunch of cookies and water out there, just chilling at the end of it after we'd set up the tents and taken them down, packed them all up. And I was showing them a skill, what I told them was a life skill, which is continuously pouring water in your mouth from a water bottle and swallowing without closing your mouth, which is a skill I've obtained over the years. I don't know, it may be a super skill, but I challenged them to do it, and one of the boys was very willing to accept the challenge and completely just, it was almost like drowning. It's not drowning, but it was just like he'd pour and pour, and his mouth would just fill up and overflow, and then he would not close his mouth. He was trying to swallow, but he couldn't get himself to swallow. So instead he would just like cough, and then the water would go all over. He was completely entrenched by the end of it. But he had so much fun trying, and it was such a good sport. It was awesome. I think he'll get it. I think he will. Great kid, amazing sense of humor as well. Good kid. Basically, it was like self waterboarding is probably the best definition, Ivan. That is right on what was happening. All right, we are going to pick up with court as we can here. Let's go ahead and play. Now realize that once again I'll explain. We are picking up with yesterday afternoon's court, which will be done by the time that the trial actually starts today in Arizona. Okay, Tiffany, let me answer your question really quickly, because it's a good question. First of all, thanks for asking this. Not challenging this decision, just genuinely curious why RA isn't going to cover business. Tiffany, there's 2 reasons, and I will say one of them, I'll admit, is financial for me. I can't do this if I don't get paid. And Shabusiness, the content in Shabusiness's trial is so extreme and so I don't even know what word to describe it. It goes in when YouTube goes through with their automatic machine and it hears the words that are said, like verbally, because it transmits it processes them for closed captioning. It looks at the texts that appear in the chat window on the side, and it hears what I say, and it actually can read text on screen as well. It can do all sorts of things. It has image recognition. Anyway, it uses this computer to analyze every video and say what is in this video, and it does it for 2 reasons. First, it wants to make sure it's not something illegal, right? You can think of all the things that you would not want shown on there. But it also does that because it has this huge program where it says, we want to match up your video with the advertiser that would be the perfect fit. Because if the advertiser advertises on this video and they have great success, they're going to come back and advertise on videos more. So YouTube is looking for this and saying, we want the perfect fit. And they look at all this and they look at the words that are coming up and just think of the show business trial and what sort of words will be coming up and depictions and everything else. And then they say, what advertiser do we have that will do this? And they say, none. We don't have any. This is not suitable for advertisements. We wouldn't want any company to come to us and say, advertise on YouTube, match us up, and then come back to us and say, you put us with that? And so YouTube takes the video and says, we're going to mark this one basically not safe for advertising, which means there's no ad revenue to the creator because of it and because of salacious. Yeah, it's worse than salacious. So that's one of the strikes. It's also we sort of have a family program here. We have kids, we have young kids, we have families that watch this together. My kids watch this, and I realize we deal with some hard topics, and if you're cool with that being brought up with your kids, we try to do that in a respectful way. There's a line we sort of don't cross, and this one is just to the point where it would make a lot of people uncomfortable, to the point where they wouldn't want to watch, which also impacts me. I realize that a lot of people are very interested in this case, and it is bizarre, and I do not fault you for wanting to read it or wanting to follow it. And I first of all, I hope you find somewhere where they do air it for you. But for us, it doesn't fit very well with what we do and how we do it. And hopefully that answers. It's a possible content strike. I'll tell you that. You're looking at YouTube's terms and conditions. Depending on what how they depict it and everything else, it could get you a strike from YouTube based on content. I know the big channels, the bigger the channel is, generally the safer they are because they have an actual intermediary. They have a person assigned to them, someone they can call up on the phone and say, hey, George, it's me here over on XYZ, 7 million subscriber channel. We're airing this. This is a court case, and they can work through it with a human instead of just a computer. Whereas the smaller channels like us, we just have a computer, and the computer makes the decision, and there's no arguing that. You can file a request, and your computer handles that as well. So it's just risky that way. But that's it. Courtney Laro, RA in chat. Thanks for the amazing family. Please keep New Hampshire and especially Vermont in your thoughts and prayers. Impatiently waiting for Sarah Boone. I think you guys are dealing with some incredible flooding, if I'm not correct, Courtney. Is that what you're getting at with the thoughts and prayers about New Hampshire? I've seen some of the charts of the dams up in that area and just how full they are, and it's crazy. I hope nothing breaks, because when it floods like this and a dam breaks, there's nowhere for the water to go, and destruction is terrible. It's terrible. Let's see. Please sing happy birthday to Dusty Den. You will really make your day, and it will give her bragging rights. Please, pretty please. So Dusty Den right now. How about I do this? Since Dusty Den, Dane Mama, and Lisa Medina all are here, and it's a birthday, I'll just do a second birthday thing for Parrot, and then Parrot will get their own. Is that all right? Can we do that? Is that do we get a consensus? Will you be willing to share your birthday with the others? Let's see. Yes, says Ryan Apple Snapple. That's all right. We should. Yes, 2 birthday songs. We'll do that, and you can count them both as yours. I didn't warm up with. Well, I did have a little bit of water. I think we're good. La 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 la. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dusty Den, Dane Mama, and Lisa Medina. Happy birthday to you. There we go. Happy birthday to you 3 as well. We're going to have to sing for Parrot here in a little bit when Parrot shows up. She's not able to be here till 10. Tiffany says, I heard Sarah Boone is pushed till September, but didn't see anything official. Her attorneys are working on a different death penalty case and keep pushing her case to the side. There isn't anything official, Tiffany. What we're waiting for actually on that one is the 21st, Friday before the trial's supposed to start. They've scheduled another hearing. That part is official. They've scheduled another hearing in front of the judge. We do think Sarah Boone will be there for that. And at that hearing, they're going to set the new date for the trial if it does get moved. Anyway, happy birthday to the birthday folks. Good to have you here. Thank you so much. We're going to get this kicked off. We don't have a lot of We don't have a lot of video for this afternoon, but we have some. This man can sing and make beautiful charts. Well, I will say I sing better than I make charts. My chart efforts look something more like this. We had this one yesterday. This is this trial for those that are following along, and it's basically the family tree and a little bit of depiction of the actions. Yeah, it's pretty much self-explanatory. I mean, I don't have to do anything to explain this. You can pretty much follow the chart and see who does what and why people are creepy and where we are now in the bottom right-hand corner, with all the family relations there at the bottom as well. So that's good. Anyway, let's see. We're on here. We're there. You know what we need? We just need the judge to come back from lunch, and we'll be good to go. Let's make that happen. Let's make the judge come back for lunch. He's coming back in. Give him just a minute. Bring on the Royal Albert Hall. What a voice. Anytime I'm going to be in the Royal Albert Hall singing, it will be in the audience, and they'll be asking me to leave.
Let's bring the jury.
Oh, Angela's bringing the jury. Let's go ahead and bring this back. Looks like we're back from lunch right now. Okay, still just have left audio for this. I do apologize if you're only hearing me and not the judge. Headphones will help. Watching it on a TV may help, depending on what plugs you have. Gaber, you're going to be here for the birthday song. We'll make it happen for you. If not, you can just call me up on the burner phone and I'll get it. I'll sing to you over that. Won't sound the same, but give it a try. Right, on the just for those that are counting, here's where we are on the cough counter. This counter, I apologize, I did not do my homework. I was supposed to put a little cough counter, little wrap around that image. Have not done that yet. Let me see if I can work on that. Sarah Boone letter has not been released. I've been checking that. Great question as well. Let's see. I'll do another check this morning.
Fancy.
Other letters have taken. I went back and was looking at all the other letters she sent this morning, and other letters have taken up to a week or almost 10 days to get filed. So I don't know how long this one's going to take. I know they're a little behind on all their filing, but Florida courts are busy. Good morning, Kurt. Good to have you here. Kurt from Uncivil Law. Awesome. He's got a couple of recent videos where he's talked about Sarah Boone as well. I think you were doing one with Natalie, which is pretty good, covering the previous letter. Good stuff. This was live yesterday afternoon. So this works better for our schedule if we take their afternoon and watch it in the morning, because then we're going to be done with them before they go live, and then we can have live in the afternoon.
We are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Sorry for that short delay. We had some technical difficulties, but they appeared to now be resolved. And Mr. Imbordino, you may resume your direct examination of your witness whenever you're ready.
Thank you. And the we was me.
I didn't want to blame anybody.
He has trouble running the CD player. He had to practice.
All right, so I think when we stopped this morning, I had asked you about the two occasions that you saw the defendant at the house across the street from where Alyssa had been living when she went missing.
This witness is the investigator, continuing
So
from
now let me
earlier.
ask you, because you detailed this morning things that you would like to have had done when this investigation first began, before you even took it over. And I think one of the things you said was, for example, to interview family and friends. Is that right?
Yes.
So during the course of your investigation into this case, did you do that?
Yes. We interviewed almost 200 people in this case.
And I'm not asking you to give us their names, but what can you just describe generally who they were? Family, girlfriends, boyfriends, whoever?
We interviewed immediate family, siblings. We interviewed grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. We interviewed her boyfriend, co-workers, classmates, people she had interacted with in the previous neighborhood. We interviewed pretty much anybody we could find that knew Alyssa at any point in her life.
You mentioned, I think I heard you say aunts. So we've had some reference in this case to an Aunt Lynette.
Yes.
Did you talk to her?
I did,
In person or by phone?
by phone.
And what was your reason in talking to her?
She lived in California, and we became aware that there was some communication between her and Alyssa before her disappearance.
So once you completed those interviews, did you have any, were you able to locate Alyssa?
No.
The next time that you saw the defendant at the house across the street, when was that?
After those initial 2 visits, or
Yes.
it was in December
Of what year?
of 2008.
And what was the purpose for going to that residence?
We executed a search warrant there.
And did the search warrant just include that house?
No, we also had a search warrant for the house across the street where Alyssa went missing from.
Let me ask you about that first. The home across the street where Alyssa had lived. Was anyone living there when you conducted your search?
Yeah, there was a new resident in there.
And so what did the search consist of?
We were looking for a possible crime scene, any kind of evidence of something that happened to Alyssa there.
And did you find anything?
No.
Again, do you know how long that new family had been living there?
I believe that he had been there for a number of years. I think there might have been at least 2 residents that had lived there since the Turney family had moved out.
So let's go to the search of the defendant's residence. Did that include the house across the street, where they were living in 2008? You searched the interior of the home,
Yes.
the garage,
Yes.
any other buildings on the property?
In the backyard, we had cadaver dogs run through the location.
It's really late to be checking for a crime scene like 7 years later. It's no surprise they really didn't find anything.
Now, in the course of that search, were documents found?
Yes, many, many documents.
Were VHS tapes found?
Yes, hundreds of them.
Were cassette tapes found?
Yes, hundreds of them.
So let's talk about did you seize those items?
Yes, we seized all the audio tapes, VHS tapes, and then documents and computers, storage devices.
And where did you take it?
It was impounded at our property bureau
And how was it transported?
through a police van.
Can you estimate for us the number of audio cassette tapes?
I would say at least 500 of them.
And what about VHS videotapes?
At least 500 of those also.
At some point during the course of this investigation, did Phoenix police detectives and personnel listen to those cassette recordings?
Yes.
Did they view the VHS tapes?
Yes.
Were all of the VHS tapes surveillance video?
No, there was commercial tapes mixed in there. Some of them had been burned to DVDs and things like that. So yeah, there was a mixture of everything in there. Family home videos.
The cassette tapes, the audio cassette tapes. Just a general description of the types of conversations.
The audio tapes were from the, I guess, the recording system that was on the family phone. So a typical tape would record all the incoming and outgoing phone calls that came into the house. So you would have, innocuous phone calls to check to see, what the movie times were playing at a certain particular date. You would have conversations from salespeople. You'd have personal family conversations. You would have Alyssa talking to people. You would have Michael talking to people, Sarah talking to people. These tapes covered decades. It was almost like a wiretap that went on for decades. I think the oldest tape I found was from the 1970s, all the way up to the day of the search warrant.
Any recording of a phone call from California on May 24th, 2001?
No.
You were asking, the date that you asked was May 24?
I'm sorry. Yes, May 24th. The date that eventually phone records were obtained, which did demonstrate a call came from California, correct?
Yes.
On or about the 24th of May?
Yes.
Now, the defendant himself obtained those records, correct, from the, I can't remember if it was Quest or not.
It was Quest.
And eventually you were provided a record of demonstrating such a call came in.
Yes.
I'll summarize this.
Do you recall the time of day?
I believe it was 5:02 in the morning. I could check my report to refresh my memory and verify that.
In any event, you did not recover a recording of that call?
No.
Assuming one existed. It wasn't in the items seized from the house?
No.
You mentioned earlier today that in that initial visit at the home, you had inquired or asked about, and maybe it wasn't you, I may be misstating this, but did you tell us it was Detective Anderson who asked about a videotape from the day she went missing?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. In any event, in reviewing the 500 or so VHS tapes, was a surveillance video discovered dated May 17th of 2001?
No.
Any VHS tape discovered showing that the events as they had been described, which we've not gotten into yet, by the defendant?
No.
No VHS tape marked by the defendant as May 17th. This is the day she went missing.
No.
These videotapes that were viewed, did they have date and time stamps on them?
No. Some of the tapes we hand marked with a date or a subject matter, but no, there wasn't a date and time stamp on those.
I am moving to admit Exhibit 99, Your Honor, which is the surveillance video from the events surrounding the argument between Mr. Lockman and Alyssa Turney.
Any objection?
No objection from defense.
Exhibit 99 is admitted.
We're counting how many times the prosecutor coughs. We call him Gandalf.
I guess I should
but-
ask you first, have you seen this particular video yourself?
Yes, I have.
Generally describe for us what we're going to witness.
This is a surveillance video, which depicts the location of the cameras. There's a camera in the vent in the living room, and then there's a camera that covers the main house entry in the carport area. So this will show a purported argument between John and her boyfriend Alyssa, where they will have a confrontation. She will throw the phone against the wall, and he will leave, and then she picks up the phone and comes back inside, and you can see her crying on the couch.
And I guess I neglected to ask you, when you conducted a search of the residence where Alyssa was living when she went missing, did you look for surveillance cameras?
Yes.
Find any?
In the location where the house they used to live?
Yes.
No, there wasn't any surveillance then.
Before you press play, are any of the jurors having any difficulty seeing the screen? Sometimes there's a glare from the lights. I can dim the lights if any of you are having trouble seeing. Looks like nobody's having trouble.
I want the mood lighting anyway, Judge, if we could do that. Is this the heat vent view? Oh man, this is the creep cam. This is it. Come on, he practiced all lunch. I'm going to turn, well. This is carport. It's got to be carport.
This report brought to you by Business Development.
We can't act. Why not? SBA makes loans for owner-occupied commercial properties. You see, it's the Small Business Administration, not the Small Landlord Administration. Business Administration, not the Small Landlord Administration. Business Development Finance Corporation has SBA loans with fixed interest rates below prime and up to 90% loan to value. But remember, $92.
Of 35. NASDAQ composite update. Breakout day today. Both, well, actually all three, the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ have been trading in a fairly tight little. And a breakout, a move to the upside. First time that the Dow Industrials has closed above 11,000 since last September. And the NASDAQ composite was.
This is the carport view right here. And there's the couch view. This camera is placed inside a heat vent, looking at the couch in the living room. That's the couch that the dad asked them to go sit on. Not this boyfriend, but the Jack in the Box manager, 20-year-old. Yeah, this camera is not normal. The outside camera, I'm fine with that.
I'm going to pause it for just a moment. So, having watched this before, does it show Mr. Lockman coming back to the house at all?
No, he does not.
Now, it appears that when this recording is being made, that it's switching between the carport camera and the one in the living room. Do I have that correct?
Yes, it seemed like the system was automatically set up to switch between those two cameras.
So once what we're looking at here, is this a copy of how the Phoenix Police Department received it? I mean, in other words, did the Phoenix Police Department edit this in any way?
No, this is what Mr. Turney gave us.
He actually, let me just ask you about that. Were 2 VHS tapes recovered or received during the investigation of this event?
Yes.
Was one of them at the house during the search?
So 2 tapes were provided to us by the defendant. One was this tape. One was the tape of Alyssa with her with another boy on the couch. And then during the search warrant, we recovered multitude other tapes. One of them was a copy of this one.
Okay. Were there, had somebody written a date on the outside of the VHS tape?
In the copy that we found, the date 5/16.
And what about the other one?
We're having some signal issues.
What was the date on the other one?
The one that was provided to us, I'm not sure if there's a date on that or not.
I'll wait and ask Detective Anderson about that.
Okay.
Oh, good. We get another officer. The problem with those magnetic
Any
media
other
forms
anything
is they degrade over time.
remaining?
Between the two, there's a house, but there's no other interaction with anybody else.
Having signal issues. Audio's working. Just 1 second. Yeah, VCR tapes over years, they degrade. They dissolve. The magnetic imaging sort of blurs. It becomes harder and harder to retrieve that. So burning it to DVD would make it last longer, but you can never regain that quality once the tape's degraded. So a lot of the glitching and stuff you saw there, that would be probably from that.
As part of your investigation, did you obtain some school records for Alyssa from Barry Goldwater High School?
Yes.
Move the admission of Exhibit 101.
Any objection?
No objection from defense.
Exhibit 101 is admitted.
May I approach?
You may.
How long would the tapes have been? Are they like 90-minute tapes or 180-minute tapes? 4-hour tapes? If they have 500 tapes, even if they were just an hour long, that would take a month to watch just the videotapes and a month to listen to all the audio tapes if they were just 1 hour each.
No, those are Bear Goldwater.
tapes. Oh my goodness. This is years of information.
Do you recognize the document?
Yes.
So, whoops, got to switch back to the Elmo. Sorry.
The cameras weren't in place 7 or 8 years later. They got the video when they did a search. The dad provided these. He gave them these 2 videos. And then they confiscated, 1,000 other tapes, combined audio and video. But the cameras were not in place in that house. They'd moved across the street by that time.
Thought it was on.
VHS tapes and audio cassette tapes. This is the worst kind of binge watching.
All right, Detective, can you see the screen?
Yes.
So it appears we're looking at grades from, including December of 1998, December of 1999, May of 99, May of 2000, correct?
Yes.
And so there was a C in biology,
Yes.
an A in language art,
Yes.
an A in pre-algebra,
Yes.
a D in, you know what DES fundamental was?
I don't know.
In 99, there was a D in biology, correct?
Yes.
In any event, these were grades that were reflected from her school records for those dates and times.
Yes.
At Barry Goldwater, not at Paradise Valley High School, correct?
That's correct.
Looks like her grades got worse over time. They averaged out to just C's. As they say, C's get degrees.
In the course of your investigation, did you discover, well, in your course of the search of the house, did you discover records from Desert Schools Credit Union?
Yes, there were some bank receipts and things like that. Yes.
Well, let me, can I approach?
You may.
Show you exhibits 104 and 105.
As he shows them those exhibits, Kiefer, you might want to have those converted to DVD.
Yeah, these are financial records that were recovered during our investigation.
And make sure they stay away from magnets. They're very susceptible to magnetic interference.
We would move to admit exhibits 104 and 105.
Any objection?
No objection from defense.
Exhibits 104 and 105 are admitted.
So many of us look at that report card and say, that looks familiar.
So let me ask you something, Detective. If did you discover that Alyssa had an account at this credit union?
Yes.
She was she shown as the owner of the account?
Yes.
Putting exhibit 104 on the screen.
I think it's a panic button.
And the address is the address on 34th Street where Alyssa was living when she went missing, correct?
That's correct.
So these records show that at the time of her disappearance, approximately how much money was in that account?
She had over $1,800 in her account at the time.
Right.
$200 a week. Those paychecks.
And approximately a few months later, was that money transferred?
Yes, Alyssa's account was emptied and transferred to Sarah's account.
Exhibit 105 is a record of the defendant's account there, correct?
Yes.
Did you note a transfer of money on or about the 26th of April, 2001?
Yes. On that date, the defendant transferred $300 to Alyssa's account.
With reference to Alyssa's account, did the defendant make any statements about leaving it open for her in the beginning?
Yeah, he indicated initially that he was leaving it open to see if she would access it.
Was there ever any evidence that it was accessed before the money was transferred to Sarah's account?
No.
And did he make any statements as to why he did that, transferred it?
He wanted to, I guess, not give her the ability to access money if she was out there somewhere.
You mentioned the organization and National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I have the hardest time with NCMEC. I'm not sure why, but so did you recover a document the defendant authored on May 25th, 2001 to them?
Yes.
Your Honor, should I ask to approach each time?
You do not need to, as long as you've done it once with each witness.
Showing you Exhibit 9.
Okay, did that too.
This prosecutor is not able to practice law in Texas anymore because he stopped paying his fees, his dues. So his bar card was revoked, I believe.
Do you recognize it?
Yes.
Move to admit Exhibit 94.
Any objection?
Welcome, Brandy. Good to have you here. Amazing interview last night. If you did not watch Brandy's interview last night with the dynamic duo, highly recommend you go check it out. Did a great job, you and JT.
Right. No objection.
Exhibit 94 is admitted.
So, for the record, it consists of four pages, correct?
Correct.
Dated May 25th, 2001.
Yes.
So for exploited children, correct?
Yes.
With the signature of Michael Turney, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to request the witness read the letter.
You may. Sir, just remember there's a court reporter, and sometimes people tend to read faster than they talk, so
Okay.
be kind to her.
I will. The letter begins, "To whom it may concern. Thank you for the forms and the service you are offering to assist me in locating my 17-year-old daughter. My daughter and I had both a amicable and adversarial relationship, in part due to her condition and in part due to continuous outside intervention by private citizens in governmental agencies. Alyssa is a true ADD that medications did not help. Only a structured lifestyle with good eating and sleeping habits worked for her. Almost all of her conflicts at school were created by Arizona schools that promoted programs to use progressive discipline and or retaliation versus identifying, testing, and placing students like her in IEPs under the IDEA. The other problems resulted in school officials and ex-friends of mine who decided that she needed to experience sexual contact with male students, alcohol, and marijuana usage.
His friends?
All was reported to the appropriate authority. All was ignored. Alyssa was solicited by a male teacher in a public school during a class to wrestle a male student without any regards for her safety, as well as protections for those female parts of her body that were in fact made sore by the young man groping her private parts under the authorization of a male teacher. She was humiliated, shamed, and disgraced because she had no idea what to expect, but not what did happen. Her ability to foresee what to expect was hindered as an ADD child. I spent numerous hours with her crying and dealing with her embarrassment and shame to overcome this tragedy. Within days, Alyssa put this behind her, as she always did with her quickness to forget. Then she was accused of being gay and moved away from her friends by 4 teachers, who decided to share this information with other students on the campus, causing me to change schools. This incident caused further harm, but was not so easily forgotten due to the accusation being spread on campus. She was also issued detention slips for failing to run the mile in the time they demanded, even though the school was notified she had asthma. This was followed with a detention slip because she failed to pick up a slip of paper to use the restroom after she had been humiliated with the accusations of being gay. All of this was done during a federal Department of Education investigation of the school failing to comply with the IDEA. After they stopped retaliating against Alyssa, another school in the same district decided to only pat search one child out of 24 students in a classroom looking for some missing change, candy, and a paper hole puncher. This was her younger sister, Sarah. To this day, including during this past school year, some teachers continue to try to punish Alyssa for not paying attention or following instructions, in spite of those same teachers attending the forced IEP meetings I demanded, because they decided she did not have ADD or a learning disability. Alyssa's attitude remained positive at school, but very adversarial at home, based in part for all of the above, but in part because she had so much trouble passing her tests, including the AIMS testing, and had to be tutored daily by me for her to do her homework. I tutored Alyssa every night, where she displayed excellent study habits with some of the best note-taking I have seen of any of my 6 children. The primary problem remained the same. She could not comprehend and or retain most of the material she took noted about in order to use it for testing. This year, she took a job with Jack in the Box, where she was praised by all of those she worked with because she is a very hard-working person that just wanted to be accepted and please those around her. She also took on a steady boyfriend. The combination of school, the job, late hours, and dad's rules were taking a toll on her world, which had become far too complicated, using her exact words. The boyfriend was too demanding and critical of her mental condition by ridiculing her for it. This caused a conflict with my teachings that she was not stupid or inferior in intelligence to anyone. Her boyfriend also encouraged her to break basic rules I had established for Alyssa, which included skipping classes to be with him, leaving campus without permission, a positive attitude about school, allowing male friends in the home when I was not there, and my recommendation to end this relationship due to his bad temper and ridiculing her for her learning disability, which she told me she was after school ended. Because she had a class with him and did not want to anger or embarrass him at school. She was planning to break off the relationship according to several of her female friends and what she told me. Alyssa required a lot of sleep. Before her job and boyfriend, Alyssa would go to bed between 8 and 9 p.m. every night. This was disrupted by her job and the demands of the boyfriend. Alyssa developed a like for marijuana after the woman she babysat for her son. So we had an ongoing conflict when I would find it. We had approximately 6 incidents when I found small amounts in her possession. The last time was approximately 2 to 3 weeks before she ran away. She was grounded each time. After her last argument with her boyfriend the day before she ran away, that ended with her throwing the phone against the wall and he squealing his truck tires as he sped away. I grounded her from him because I was not aware he had such a bad temper. Alyssa did not display any drug dependencies to me except the occasional marijuana usage, which occurred over a 4-year period. Alyssa was trying to run away this same time last year when I convinced her to stay with her 2 brothers for about 3 to 4 weeks. She returned home under objection to the same rules I've used through 4 older children. We had an added conflict due to her deceased mother's sister's attempts to use Arizona's Child Protection Agency to steal our girls in 1993 and 1994, even though her mother made it very clear to them that she wanted our children to remain with me. The false accusations against me were cleared by CPS, but left behind a scar and idea in my children that if I did not give into certain demands against my rules and some laws, that they could use the threat of CPS against me to get what they wanted. Such an incident occurred this time last year, whereupon I called CPS to report the same, because I grew tired of trying to raise my children under this threat. No investigation resulted. Alyssa has been running away from confusing situations and or anytime she thought she was in trouble since I first adopted her at 2.5 years of age. Her favorite phrase was, quote, "You're being mean to me," end quote, which later turned into, quote, "You're abusing me," end quote, which was often misinterpreted many times by those who did not know Alyssa. I've always tried to avoid any form of physical discipline with any of my children, stopping my wife when we first got married. When we got married, she had 2 and I had 3. I adopted her 2 and we had 1 between us. She died in 1993. The last day I saw her on May 17, 2001, was the last day of school with only 2 classes. She had 1 final and some errands to run for as a teacher's aide. I became concerned over the fight she had with her boyfriend the day before, knowing that she had used this class to visit her boyfriend, who she had been told not to see for at least 1 week due to his display of anger at Alyssa for not letting him come inside our house when I was not at home. I found out later that she had in fact used this time to visit with him upon his request, again violating my orders. I took Alyssa out of school early to discuss the summer rules, her visiting her Aunt Lynette in California, the marijuana, and attempted to diffuse our adversarial portion of our relationship, including my concerns about the temper and demands her boyfriend was putting on her. We got lunch and returned home. We agreed that it had been a very difficult and tedious school year with my having to tutor her every night. We agreed that we needed time away from each other, but we're arguing over her going to her Aunt Lynette in California, mostly due to a difference of opinion about the usage of marijuana. I conceded to let her go if she would discuss her plans to break up with her boyfriend before she left and promised to refuse any marijuana she was offered. This turned into another argument over my trying to control everything in her life and everyone trying to tell her what to think and do, including her boyfriend, John Lackman. She also told me that she was tired of her job at Jack in the Box and worried about all the changes about to occur, with certain people leaving. Am I constantly checking on?
Audio just cut out. Give us a minute. As they're fixing it here, this letter is strange. The dad, he's presented on one side that every time he's with her, she does well. He tutors her and she does really well on note taking. But when she's gone, she doesn't remember anything she's written. And then she's like, I'm really mad. I wanted to file a restraining order against the boyfriend because he had such a bad temper for when my daughter would not allow him in the house when I was gone. But then I found out that my daughter was actually violating my orders and seeing him behind my back. It's really weird. Yeah, the audio's out for a few on this. Everyone has to deal with the same issues as the cameraman's getting things sorted out. Excuse me, Mr. Turney, can I borrow your headphones, please? Yeah, it'll come back here in just a second. So, this being said, there's no sound here. I hear you. It's going to be coming back. It'll pop back in just in a moment. There's nothing in this, in and of itself, that is proof of murder, right? There's nothing. Can I turn up my mic a little bit? Is that a little better? A little better, Richard? There's nothing in here that could that's proof of murder directly, but there are things that just seem off to many of us. And granted, I'm going to stop talking as soon as he starts talking, so it might be mid-sentence. But there's things in here, his wording, when he said violated my orders, that's his own depiction of what was happening when she was disobeying. She violated his orders. Parenting is more than issuing orders and commands. So I can see that her depiction of Alyssa not being happy with the rules, I think it was very much the case. But it also seems like he's telling a story that possibly serves his narrative a little bit in this letter, where he is the only other person who knows about the situation, and thus, if he tells the story, that's the way it happened. So he's driving the narrative that way with what happened. Can you push a tad more mid-range on the mic, EQ? Man, let's see. Mid-range on my mic. Let's check my levels. Test 1 2. Check 1 2. 1 2. Test 1 2. Give me a second here. Voice strength. How about the medium side? Is that a little better on the mic if I boost it that way? A little more mid-range there, or should I go a little more on the high range? I think mid-range should serve. Tone medium, is that? I think that's about good right there. Tell me if that's any better. Okay, so some of these things are good parent things. Some of the parent involvement is good, and I'll tell you, teenagers don't like parent involvement sometimes. There's a point in their teenage life where they just turn to their peers and they're focused on them and want to get all their feedback and answers from their friends, and anything their parents say is wrong until someone else out exterior from the family situation tells them, and suddenly it's right because it came from another source. Mrs. R.A. will tell you all about that if she's learned a ton about that. But coming from a law enforcement mind, seems like words he's used. I also find Dad calling himself a child too.
Over the next few days were filled with blurs of what was happening and up and down emotional trips trying to accept what had happened and overcome the anxiety of not knowing where she was and the feeling of rejection and everything being my fault. After staying up all night searching in the areas I thought she might be and the people I thought may help her hide, I returned home about 4 or 5 a.m., Thursday, May 24th, to get some sleep. The phone rang and I answered it. I heard someone return my hello but due to my bad hearing and the loud traffic noise, I repeated my hello, which was returned with a loud hello that sounded like Alyssa's voice. I became excited, asking if this was Alyssa, while she was angrily telling me she left because of my stupid roles, her life sucked, something about her job and John, then a pause with what sounded like, quote, fuck off, end quote, and her hanging up. I immediately got up and took my vehicle driving out on Bell Road towards 51 looking for her. By the time I returned and realized I should have dialed *69 to get the number she called from, someone else had called. All my attempts to get this number from Quest failed, with them demanding I serve a subpoena to get the number. I pleaded for just the area code, but was also denied that. Since then, I have contacted the social worker at Paradise Valley High School, as many of her friends as possible, and now I'm distributing flyers with her picture on it in stores and local movie theaters. I have left one phone message with Detective Schoenfelder at PPD, but was told he was on vacation. I have also contacted the Missing Children Help Center, Operation Lookout, DPS, and Bring Them Home to help search for her. I also had a next-door neighbor place the enclosed flyer on a website for me. I checked with all the houses on my block to see if they had seen my daughter leaving on Thursday. No one saw anything. My security camera film showed nothing of when Alyssa left. I watched all 8 hours of it. She would have had to leave through her bedroom window or out the back gate. Sincerely, Michael R. Turney.
How many hours of it? I watched all 11 hours of it. All 8 hours. That was a book. Yes, that's going to be published in a 6-volume set.
So I have a couple of questions about statements contained in this document, Exhibit 94. The time that he said he arrived home after having picked up Sarah. I believe when you're reading it, he claimed that was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
Correct? He claimed that he went to Sarah's school and the buses arrived late, correct?
Yes.
Any discussion about having gone to a house, Sarah's friend's house, to pick her up?
Yes.
In here, in this letter?
He doesn't remember.
I'm not sure he specifies that.
Well, let me...
Can I take a look at it again?
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can find it for you so that I don't misquote him.
Great question, Kevin. Why
Mr.
leave a
Bird,
note?
you know,
and then
if you want to
sneak
put it
out?
on the Elmo, he's got a screen in front of him, and that might
Thanks.
keep you from running back and forth.
So I'm looking at page 3, and see this paragraph that begins, I left the house sometime between noon and 1.
Yes. Yes.
We did not get home until 5 p.m.
Correct.
I also had to pick up her younger sister from a trip to Waterworld after the buses dropped her off. The buses were late. You see that?
Yes.
Towards the end, on the last page, he says that he watched the security film from that day, correct?
Yes, he says he watched all 8 hours of it.
All 8 hours of it. So if there were 8 hours of it, would that seem to indicate that it was running for 8 hours?
Yes.
Now, he is apparently telling these folks that she would have had to leave through her bedroom window or out the back gate in order for her not to appear on the video, correct?
Yes.
So that would mean that she leaves a note saying she's leaving and yet doesn't want to be on the videotape, correct?
Correct.
What this reference to star 69, were you involved or was it Detective Anderson in looking at the phone records?
I looked at the phone records.
So for those who might not know what that is, what's star 69 and or star 67?
Star 69 would provide you with the phone number that was calling, and then star 67 would log it with the phone company so that it could be obtained. That's my understanding of it.
Now, in reviewing the phone records, did you notice whether or not the defendant was paying for caller ID?
Yes.
Did you notice whether there was there was any indication, and I'll show you these records later, but any indication of star 69 being used on other occasions?
Yeah, on the phone records that I looked at, it was used frequently.
Was there a charge for it?
I believe you're allowed like 6 usages, and then there would be charges accumulated after that.
Now here in this letter, he makes the claim that she had a black suitcase that was missing.
Yes.
Not her backpack was missing.
That's correct.
While we're on the topic of the phone records, what phone records did you obtain?
We obtained a copy of the AMA dump, which was from the lawsuit to Quest for the landline. During the search warrant, we also recovered cell phone bills for Alyssa's phone and the defendant's phone.
Okay. Now the AMA dump, what is that?
The AMA dump is basically a kind of a technological dump of phone information. It comes in a very difficult form to read, but it will lay out what phone calls came in on a landline.
And how did the defendant provide that to you?
Yes, he had provided it.
He obtained it from Quest.
Yes.
Provided it to you.
Yes.
Correct. So in reviewing the calls that day from the defendant's phone, and I think you said you also had records of Alyssa's phone?
In the form of bills that the AT&T had sent.
Okay. Were there also bills found during the search?
Yes. That's where we obtained them through the search warrant.
All right. Both AT&T and Quest?
Yes.
Now, in the letter to Nipmick, he said he went to pick her up early, correct?
Correct.
Were there calls from the defendant's phone to reflected the morning of May 17th to Alyssa's cell phone?
Yes.
At what time?
There was a short 1-minute call at 10:05 in the morning, and then another call for a minute, I think within a half hour after that.
Was there a call to Alyssa's cell phone in the afternoon
Yes.
from the defendant's phone?
Yes.
And what time was that?
That was, I believe, at 1:09 p.m., and it was a 7-minute phone call.
So either there was a 7-minute conversation. Let's think. Let me ask you what would be the options here? There's a 7-minute conversation, is one, correct?
That would be my assumption, yes.
Between somebody using those two phones.
Yes.
Or
Objection? Speculation?
Overruled. The witness may answer.
would it be possible to leave, do you know, if you know, a 7-minute voice message?
I believe it would be possible.
In any event, all you had was a record of the call being made
That's correct.
and the length of time that it took.
Yes.
Was there a call to Alyssa's cell phone later from the defendant's number, late afternoon, early evening?
Yes.
What time?
I'd have to look at my report to refresh my memory.
I'll come back to that. I want to go through some other documents that you found in the house. I'm going to show you exhibits 107, 108, 109, and 110. Ask you if you recognize them.
Okay.
Do you recognize these documents?
I do.
From where? Where do you recognize them from?
They were recovered in the search warrant.
At the defendant's residence?
Yes.
We'd move the admission of 107, 108,
Probably no objections. to
109,
these.
and 110.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibits 107, 108, 109, and 110 are admitted.
Now, during the course of your investigation, did you become aware that was it reported to you that in the summer of 2000 that Alyssa had spent a short period of time with her two brothers, John and Michael, living in their apartment?
Yes, in May of 2000.
I'll show you Exhibit 110. Oops.
Happy birthday, Parrot Court. We'll sing to you on a break.
A parental custodian and child agreement, correct?
Yes.
And this is an agreement between Alyssa, the defendant, as well as one of her brothers, Michael, Seth Turney, correct?
Correct.
And so Michael S., which would be Michael Seth's Turney, correct?
That's correct.
Has agreed to assume temporary custody of Alyssa Turney to allow her time to be away from her father and sister, whereupon she will follow any and all instructions given by Michael S. Turney or forfeit this privilege. That's one of the provisions, correct?
Yes.
Apparently, Alyssa, he was asking Alyssa to agree that she's incorrigible and has refused to return home under the direct authority of her parent, Michael, our attorney, correct?
Yes.
And for the court reporter, if I'm reading too quick, please let me know. That it is understood at this time that her reasons for not returning to the home of her father, Michael, our attorney, immediately are not for any of the following.
Objection. What's the question?
I'm reading from the document.
Yes.
The objection's overruled.
Physical abuse, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, lack of proper housing, lack of food, clean housing, physical abuse of her sister, Sarah Turney, sexual abuse of her sister, Sarah Turney. Correct?
Yes.
That she will no longer, going to page 2, allow any other friends, parents to influence her to leave home to live with them. Correct?
Yes.
That she will discontinue any bisexual ideologies and or acts while living with her father, Michael, our attorney. Correct?
Correct.
Apparently, that I will enter a drug rehab program and or outpatient counseling for the same. Correct?
Yes.
Now, Exhibit 107 is a document, the revocation of that temporary guardianship, apparently, correct?
Yes.
And at this time, if you read closely Exhibit 107, this was made when they were living at 18031 North Villa Rita Drive, correct?
Correct.
Not the house on 34th Street.
That's correct.
Those are not drawn up by a lawyer. This guy.
Are you familiar with the name Charity Robinson?
I am, yes.
And how are you familiar with that name?
I interviewed her at least twice during the investigation.
So showing you Exhibit 109. How would you describe this document?
This is I guess, somewhat of a legalistic contract between Michael Turney, the defendant, and Alyssa Turney.
Dated July of 1999.
Yes.
Apparently related to a birthday party that she might be going to.
Yes, at Charity's house.
And Alyssa was, he wanted Alyssa to agree that his instructions, as noted above, would be followed at this birthday party.
Yes.
Then Exhibit 108 is dated July 18th of 1999, just a few days later, correct?
That's correct.
Basically the same document, just a different date.
Following people will not be at this party.
That's correct. It's it's between Michael, the defendant, and the parents of Charity Robinson.
Yeah, the first one was between the defendant and Alyssa.
That's correct.
This one is between the defendant and Charity's parents.
Correct.
In order for Alyssa to be allowed to go to this birthday party.
Correct.
That's a lot. Man, that's... What happens if this contract is breached, is my question. You've got a juvenile signing a document What's the penalty, Nicole? What would happen if Alyssa
Now, detective,
violated that?
Going back to some of your experience as a missing persons detective, have you? Well, first of all, I think I've already asked you this question. No remains of Alyssa Turney have been found.
No.
Have you investigated cases, missing person cases or homicide cases where no body has been found?
Yes, a number of them.
And so, if you don't have a body, then how do you go about your investigation?
I mean, not having a body is obviously an obstacle to a homicide investigation, but it is the ability to dispose of a body should not be rewarded. We look for, again, pattern of life of the missing person. We want to know what they were doing before they disappeared, who they were interacting with, if they had any enemies, any issues. We want to know exactly, based on his life pattern and other circumstantial evidence, that leads us to determine that they are no longer alive. And then we look for a reason for that. So whether they are suicidal, medical issues, or it's a homicide.
The cases that you were involved in investigating were originally the body was missing. In some of those, was the victim's body eventually found?
In some of those, yes.
What were some of the means by which those bodies were hidden for a period of time?
We've had bodies that have been placed in trash containers and they end up in the landfill, which can result in a landfill search. I've participated in those.
Those are awful.
We've had bodies buried. We've had bodies put in bodies of water, Lake Pleasant. We've had bodies that have been burned, bodies that have been destroyed or dismembered so that they couldn't be recovered.
He's just scratching the surface. You haven't gone into the fed to the pigs or...
Let's talk about crime scenes, potential crime scenes for a moment. You indicated that when the search was done of the residence on 34th Street, where Alyssa had been living, nothing was found which provided you a clue as to whether or not she had been killed in that location, correct?
That's correct.
Is it unusual to not, well, let's assume that you had gone there the next day, May 18th, 2001, and found nothing in the way of physical evidence that Alyssa had been killed in that house. Blood, whatever. Is that something that never happens?
No, unfortunately, there's a lot of ways to kill a person. You can strangle somebody, you can smother somebody, you can poison somebody, you can strike them in a way that wouldn't produce blood.
I hope this list is all-inclusive.
A lot of ways that, a lot of methods of killing somebody that would not result in a physical scene.
I find his list a little bit lacking. Right. What can we just in chat here? Go ahead and add to the list what things he left off. I like the phaser and Romulan disruptor. Any other methods of killing people that he did not include? Here's a quick way to get demonetized. Oh, man. Sniper kittens. Yeah, wrong answers only would probably be best. This is one of my favorites. Yes, how many vampire bite murders have you investigated? Kill them with kindness. Ooh, this one's brutal. Definitely a heinous crime there. Ranged alien. Oh man. Just summon a UFO and boom, they're gone. And no one would believe anyone who even witnessed it. That's the best thing. You could do it in front of a crowd of people, and they'd all be thought they were crazy. What is the thing that lets you rewind? I use a it's made by Black Magic Design. It's a Studio HD. I forget it. It just has a rewind, a slow motion feature on it. It's a recorder playback machine. It's not a dedicated slow motion machine. Those are, several $1,000s, but I can use it as one. If you want, I can send you a link for it. If you'd like one. It uses HDMI for the input and the output, so you can pretty much use any HDMI feed into it, record on a SD media or an external USB drive, and then play it back.
I was going to say, can we get Pro?
I'll get you a link.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and we'll take our afternoon recess at this time. It's about 2:40 right now. I'll ask the jury to be back in the jury room in 15 minutes. That'll be about 5 minutes to 3. You can leave everything in the courtroom if you'd like. Please remember the admonition. The jury is now excused.
Jury's heading out for a minute. Let's give them a moment. Okay, we have a couple things to do in the break. If they give us a break, let's see if they conduct some business here or not first.
Please be seated. Let the record reflect the presence of counsel and the defendant. Jury's not present.
May I run to the washroom?
I'm sorry?
If you run to the washroom, are we...
Oh, yeah, I thought you wanted to address an issue.
Well, I was just going to say, before you said that, I was going to approach and ask if we could take the break while I was looking for something, because I had to go to the bathroom, and then it kind of happened.
All right. So we'll take a break and resume at about 5 minutes of 3. We're at recess.
The bathroom first. Okay, so a little bit of recess here. We'll keep the audio going in case something exciting happens. Trying to get the link for this little device for you. It's a really handy rewinding machine. It works really well. Let's see, what did Michael Turney do for a living? He was a police officer for a while. And then I don't know what he did. He had another... When he was done with that, he had another job that he went to, but let's see. I think he had an injury, a work-related injury of some sort that prevented him from working, so he was unable to continue there. Washroom instead of bathroom, restroom, is that a dialect thing? I think it's just I don't think he just said... He didn't want to be in open court on the record saying, I need to pee. That's what he was avoiding. But everybody knows. Everybody knows that's where he's going. It's not like he handled some evidence that was dirty and now he just wants to wash his hands. Okay, quick, first of all, let's do this while we're waiting, because I can sing happy birthday to Parrot Court. I can sing happy birthday to Parrot Court and Dusty Dan and everybody else. We're just going to include Parrot Court on this one because it's hard to get everyone's names together. But it is Dusty Dan, Parrot Court's, Dane, Mama, and Lisa Medina's birthday. This is just for Parrot Court, though. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Parrot Court. Happy birthday to you. There you go. That's what you get for being late. You get sung to solo. But do hope all four of you, Dusty Den, Parrot Court, Dane, Mama, and Lisa Medina, all have a happy birthday today. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. Let's see. We've got some Westerners say washroom. The washroom. Going to head down to the washroom and wash up. Throw that little hard R in there. For those that are asking for a summary of what's happening in this trial or where this court is at, we are about a week into trial, maybe a little over a week into trial. This is a case where the prosecution is alleging that the defendant murdered his stepdaughter, Elisa Turney. The stepdaughter, if you remember the layout as far as the family goes, I'll go ahead and put this up just for a minute. The top left-hand corner, Barbara and Stephen Stram got married, and you can see that they also got a divorce over to the right. Down below, Barbara fell in love with Michael Turney. They got married. Well, Barbara brought, on the left hand, you can see the names, the two Stram children, which were adopted by Michael Turney, and that was John and Alyssa. And Michael brought to that marriage Rhett Turney, James Turney, and Michael Turney. So you had those 5 children. And then together, all the way on the right, they had Sarah Turney. So Sarah Turney is the only biological child of Barbara and Michael. What Barbara didn't know is that Michael, if you look up top center to the right, had some creepy things about him, as depicted by the shadow there. Specifically below him, he likes to record his daughter hanging out with managers at Jack in the Box on the couch. I couldn't find a stick figure image that really depicted that incident, so I had to just superimpose the Jack in the Box thing. Sadly, though, back in 1993, at the age of 34, Barbara died from cancer. She's an angel now. That's why she's got the little halo in the wings. And now here we are in the bottom right-hand corner with Michael being in custody, charged with murder. He also served time he was sentenced to 10 years, served 7 years for some weapons issues. By weapons, I mean explosives that were found. And along with, I believe, a plan of his to explode the electrical union, which he says is responsible for Alyssa's disappearance. Alyssa went missing the last day of her ninth grade? Junior, I forget what grade it was, but I think it was her junior year. She was 17, so that wasn't ninth grade. That would be more. But she went missing that last day. I guess the defendant checked her out of school or picked her up. He was the last person to see her. And then the suspicion starts when the stories about what happened that day change. That like the brothers didn't know that he had picked her up and was the last person to see her for like 7 years after she disappeared. Initially, the police treated this as a runaway and did nothing with it until Sarah Turney, the youngest daughter, she really went viral on TikTok and a couple other places. She has a podcast where she's really been pushing this issue, asking for the police to follow up and to investigate. They eventually did in 2008. They run the search. They found the weapons. They charged him with that. He served his time. He got out. And now finally, they're charging him with murder. They do not have a body. There's no... they have very little evidence. The people who have testified back in 2008, 7 years after her disappearance, have very foggy memories, and a lot of the children now think something completely different than what they said in those interviews. So that's why you're hearing every time a child gets up there, one of the Turney children gets up and testifies and says, "That's what I was told," or "That's what I said then, I think differently now," or something to that effect. That's why we're seeing that, and it's circumstantial evidence. It's going to be rough. A lot of the really creepy stuff that we know about him, as far as the actual allegations of SA in this are excluded, although the judge is allowing in the part that we just heard, this letter, because the defendant wrote it and said that it didn't happen. So he's allowing in the negative, but not allowing in the affirmation that it did, or the accusation that it did. And that's where they've drawn the line. So that's about as far as we're going to go down that road unless the defense opens the door. And so we're going to watch very carefully on cross because they have objected to this over and over on the material being brought in, especially this letter. They didn't want it brought in at all. But they've objected on cross. If they ask a question that solicits from the witness the response beyond what the judge has ruled, they're opening the door. And there's a risk of them suddenly allowing something to come in that they really don't want the jury to hear. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. What led authorities to charge him with murder? I think public pressure, outcry. 2008, the Dateline 2020 did a special on this. They're just a change of personnel. That the officer who's on the stand joined back then, and so we had a new officer on and looked at this and said, "Yeah, this should have been handled differently." The police department dropped the ball on this initially, and he picked it up there. So that's why we got to here. But it's still they have a very circumstantial case with like almost no evidence, and some of the evidence they have honestly is exculpatory in nature. The fact that we have a letter that's been affirmed that is in Alyssa's handwriting saying she's running away, and she runs away, and she's gone. That helps the defense. We've got just a few things that every time they bring up her, not liking the rules and trying to sneak out and things like that. These letters, these back and forth, even as weird as they are, these contracts where, they're saying, hey, because you've done this before, I'm going to allow you to go live with your brother. And these are the rules you have to follow. You don't want to come back home. This is stuff that you can put together and the defense can say, look, she didn't want to be there. She was trying to get out, and she left a note saying she left, and that you have zero evidence that anything else occurred, even with all the creepiness and the weird things and the recording the family phone calls and the cameras in the house recording. This could just be, look, parenting doesn't come with a guidebook, and I'm not saying this guy did it right because I think he didn't, but it might be his effort to say, I'm trying to do the best I can for these kids, and the only way I know how is to keep a closer eye on them, to watch them, to make more rules, to enforce this, to say, to ground them. And clearly they weren't connecting. There wasn't a tight bond here between the two. Even so much that it seems odd in his letter that he wrote to the police that we heard, read from the stand with a long silent break in the middle. Sorry about that. He's saying, I'm trying to help my daughter. I'm coaching her through school. I'm tutoring her, and she's doing well. She keeps great notes, but her grades aren't good. She's not remembering what she's being tutored, and it's just his word against everyone else's. And so that's where we are. It's going to be a lot of people saying one thing and him saying something else. And I'm not convinced the jury will be able to convict here, that they'll be able to get past all reasonable doubt. I watched all Sarah's interviews last night, and holy moly, there is so much not allowed. The Parrott Court, there have been motion after motion after motion in this trial to exclude witnesses, to exclude evidence, and we, because it all happened sort of pre-trial, we're not hearing all of it. It's not being brought up in court, and the judge is deciding it now. It's been decided before because it's very prejudicial, and the judge is saying it's not allowed. So they're prosecuting with no evidence. So it was just Sarah that made them prosecute with no evidence. I wouldn't say just her. I think the police department change also was very instrumental in that. Yeah, I think without her, I don't think it would have moved forward. In her name, her eyes are different than the eyes in the letter. I saw that. The eyes in the letter have a little circle around them, like a circle for a dot instead of the way it's drawn on the signature. Okay, did I answer all the questions? Carol, thank you. My conclusion may change over time as we get more information. I do have my mind open to that, but I'm anxiously awaiting more evidence. But I can easily see a not guilty or hung jury in this case. I get the idea Sarah pressured them to bring a case when they really don't have much of a case. I think if that's the situation, Living Ghost, the police looking back and saying, we did this wrong, we blew it. We have to at least give it a try to say, hey, we tried, even though we blew it. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of doing that just because, hey, we screwed up. We'll just act like we'll try to prosecute anyway, even though we're not going to get anywhere. I think they shouldn't bring a case unless they are firmly convinced they can convince a jury of the guilt. And this prosecutor, especially Gandalf, is struggling with that. He's struggling to, in his narrative, in his speech patterns, in the inflection in his voice. We're just not getting that crescendo moment that leads us to any bit of evidence or testimony from a witness that signifies it's even important. And every time we start getting somewhere and we're like, okay, that's interesting. There was $300 transferred from the defendant's bank account over to Sarah's bank account, right before this happened. And now we have that happens to coincide with the note that says I stole $300 from Dad. Instead of digging into that and explaining a little bit more or trying to accent that little bit of testimony, he immediately switches over to, and we don't have a body, do we? We have no evidence that she's dead. He's like, why are you doing this? Why are you, every single time we start getting a little bit, we start gaining a tiny bit of ground, why are you turning over and playing dead as far as prosecution goes? So it's going to be rough. I wonder if there's a link between what he was charged for before and having cameras everywhere. Francis, I think clearly the years that this has been going on, years and years, this defendant deals with maybe some issues personally, mistrust issues probably at the root of it. Maybe he's slightly delusional and sees conspiracies in everything. It seems the letter he wrote seemed to indicate that anything that happened at school that was not positive for his children was all part of a big plan against his children. You have that mindset when everyone's out to get you. What can you do? And people aren't believing me, so I'm going to record it. So I'll have evidence. So, if people are threatening me over the phone, I'm going to record every phone call. And next time they call and threaten, I'm going to get it. So he's recorded all his phone calls. He's got his camera outside, the coming and going from the house is recorded. And it's just the one angle, the door they use. I think he blocked off the front door so that everything would go through the other door. Back in that time, it's not as easy to have, or nearly as cheap to have a recording system that would record everything that he wanted recorded. So by just barricading doors and forcing the family to use a single door, it allowed him to monitor what was going on. Weird, yes. The creepy part, it's not unheard of though. The creepy part is the hidden camera in the vent pointed at the couch, coinciding with the evidence from the Jack in the Box manager saying that, yeah, I came over to the house, Dad was there, he was like, hey, come on in. And they're like, all right, let's go down to Sarah's room. We're going to hang out in Sarah's room, close the door. And then Dad changes his mind saying, hey, you two, I don't want you in there. Come out here and sit right here on this couch, right here where I've aimed my camera. That part gets really creepy, really fast. I cannot imagine that the dad then, left the house. You've got to think he was monitoring. He was either there in person and saw what was going on, which I don't think he did, because I don't think the boyfriend would have, or the boy would have done what he did had the dad been right there. He probably went in and monitored, and the fact that it went on for some time adds to the creepiness factor, knowing that it's monitored, and then eventually he gets kicked out. Apparently, he crossed a line. DA is struggling to keep the batteries working in his EKG machine. He seems to be, his heart isn't in it. There's no fire. There's no passion. There's no, the delivery is just not there, trying to, encourage and incite and grab the attention of the jurors. He is in custody currently. He is currently in custody and restrained in his wheelchair, although they have lessened his restraints. Some of his leg restraints are gone. Nancy says, I'm finding myself answering Ari verbally instead of typing it every time he asks a question, like he can hear me. I can if you call the burner phone, Nancy. That works. Has been established that there's been no activity on our Social Security account. It's how my estranged parents located me from payroll histories, etc. Since she was working, she has an SSN. I believe they've done all those checks. They've monitored all sorts of accounts. They entered her in the missing persons registry, so anytime something would come up on that name, even if it was just a search for that name, it would have raised a flag. I believe Social Security is probably included in that as well. I'm going to need some water here. I'm going to go straight heathen and drink out of the bottle. I can show you how to drink without closing your mouth, too, if you really want to know. Let's see. I missed a couple things. Please stop
Anything
insulting.
we need to talk about before jury comes in?
Oops.
No, sir.
Okay. All right, let's bring them in.
Bring them in.
Oh no, they said they're doing.
There was your demonstration. Now that's going to go on TikTok, I'm sure. Kathy, we think that he was less like this with the other children. Probably all had rules, but he definitely parented the daughters a little differently. And Sarah may have been his favorite. Motive is tied to this case. It's alleged that the target was a group that the electrical union that he believes were responsible for Alyssa's disappearance, or murder, as he put it. Yeah, there's like zero chance the
Mr.
defendant's taking the stand.
Bordino, any other witnesses today?
No.
Please let go of the microphone. This is driving me nuts. It's not like Mr. Bordino, Gandalf as we call him, is getting taller and shorter throughout the day. He can just stand there, and the microphone will be pointed right at him. And you don't have to finger it gently as you speak. It doesn't require constant caresses to function. I think they do. But that was a prior act. It wasn't directly... I don't remember. I don't remember how we heard about this, if it was in the presence of the jury or out.
Please be seated. We are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. And Mr. Bordino, whenever you're ready, you may resume your direct examination of Detective Summershoe.
Detective, during the break, did I show you exhibits 14?
I don't think we have one.
$13, $14, $73, and $113.
Yes,
And did you recognize them?
I did.
What are they?
There are items that were recovered in the search warrant.
Now we've mentioned some phone calls here today. Are you able to give us, from the records that were found, what the landline number was?
I have to refer to my report. I don't have it memorized.
Okay. Let me, yeah, if you want to look at your report, just do so.
This is the top. This is the peak we're going to get from the prosecutor. Doesn't get much better than this. Feel the passion. The detective also doesn't have much fire.
Landline phone number was 602-657-1177.
Now, some of the records, were there records for 2 cell phones?
Yes, there were records for 2 cell phones in the form of bills that we found in the search warrant.
And in whose name?
They were in the defendant's name, but the numbers were 2 different numbers.
And what were they?
Again, I'll have to refer to my report.
I don't blame the witness for this having to refer back. The questioning is all over the place. It does not seem to follow any rhyme or reason or pattern.
One of the numbers was 602-758-8163, which we identified as the defendant's number. The other number was 602-758-8165, which we identified as Alyssa's cell phone number.
And I apologize if I've asked this before, but
Sorry, I missed it, Blackbird.
you mentioned that records were recovered from Quest showing the phone call coming in the morning of May 24th, correct?
Correct.
And that was from a payphone somewhere in California.
Yes.
And that phone call was to what? A landline or a cell phone number?
That was to the landline.
The landline number that you found recordings for audio cassette tapes of conversations.
Yes.
Alternate jurors, if you're covering show business, I'd be happy to send people over that way. That's one that I can't get into. I just can't. But if you're going to cover that, that'd be a great resource. We can send people your way for that trial. We will not be doing that one.
We would move to admit 1314. Let's see. $73 and 113.
Any objections?
No objection from defense.
It's ordered admitting exhibits 13, 14, 73, and 113.
Detective, I'm not going to put them on the screen right now. It's a little hard to see through but let me just, and showing you, for example, exhibit 73, this envelope that these records are in, what is that?
That's an evidence bag we use when we collect evidence.
And what information would you put on that?
We would put the report number, the date it was collected, and usually a item number that references it in our report. Then is there also a barcode is generated for it?
The 73, I just want to show one thing if I can, please. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
And I want to just ask you, and these are, am I correct, exhibit 73 is actually records prior to May 17th, in fact, from April of 2001.
That's correct.
But on here, when you see where it says various dates, call return activation, what does that mean?
That's the, I believe that's the star 69 where it identifies the call that's coming in.
So if you don't press star 69 or star 69 dial the number back?
It'll give you a message what number it was that called.
And on a regular phone bill such as this, if you didn't do that, is it going to show incoming calls on a regular phone bill like this?
Not a landline, no.
On a landline, yes.
No.
In documents that you recovered during the search warrant, did you find a document wherein the defendant claims to know who killed Alyssa?
Yes, there were a number of documents like that.
And did he accuse two particular men?
Yes.
Did you have a name for those men?
He provided two names, Gary Wayne Morissetti and Charles Parsons.
Did you try to locate those two people?
Yes.
And what did you discover?
We found Gary Wayne Morissetti had died. He was from Illinois, and he had died in 1987. Charles Parsons was from Texas. He had died in 1993. We contacted their families and verified that.
So dead people did it?
And related, and in this document, did he indicate to you, not to you, but in the document, that these two men had been, hired by this union that he had had a dispute with, the defendant, I mean?
Yes, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW.
And in fact, did he make a statement in these documents that he was the blame for Alyssa being killed because of this dispute that he had with the union?
Yes.
And did he, in this document, state that not only that he knew that these two men had killed her, but they had dumped her body in, Desert Center, California?
Yes.
I'm posting the link
Explain to us,
the rewind
if
machine
you can, please.
as requested earlier.
Let's assume that somebody goes missing like Alyssa, and from time to time are unidentified bodies found around the nation, in fact, around the world.
Yeah, it's estimated there's approximately 40,000 unidentified bodies in the United States.
When a body that might match in some fashion the description of the person you're looking for, how are you made aware of that?
Through a variety of ways. NCIC has an internal algorithm that when somebody's entered as a missing person, if there is an entry for an unidentified person, it will automatically, typically every month or so, it'll give you a list of possible matches to the unidentified remains to the missing person. The NamUs database also contains missing and unidentified persons, and you can do searches through a variety of search engines through that, what you're looking for, date range, identifying features, sex, any multitude of qualifiers they can look for searches and things like that. Additionally, missing persons, there's the CODIS system, which is the National DNA Database. So when somebody goes missing, you create a profile of that missing person, either from a primary source of DNA or typically it's family reference samples, parents, siblings, that sort of thing. That then gets entered into the CODIS database. And the CODIS database does regular searches for any unidentified remains that are submitted to them, looking for possible matches.
In this case, were there instances where the Phoenix Police Department was contacted about a potential, at least, potentially might have been Alyssa's body?
Yeah, there's been a number of unidentified remains that we have compared to Alyssa.
And it wasn't her?
No.
Now, in this particular case, during the course of the investigation, was DNA from family members collected?
Yes, DNA was collected from Sarah and John, her siblings, and then also from Stephen Strom, her biological father.
So then explain how that happens. That biological evidence collected from them where does it go from there?
Family reference samples are collected. Typically, it's what we call a buccal swab. You swab the inside somebody's cheek. That then gets sent to a lab which analyzes it. So to create a profile for a missing person, absent having a primary DNA source from them, you look for the closest relatives, and then the lab is able to create a profile so that if any, you get half your DNA from a parent, half from your father, half from your mother, and then siblings also share some of the same DNA. So when you combine these, you create a profile for the missing person to compare to unidentified remains.
Sir, if we can just get you a
I'm
little
sorry.
closer. That's okay.
I don't believe FTR is on.
There's an
Okay.
objection here of some sort.
Thanks.
I missed it. Maybe it was just information. How did we get to use Doe as the anonymous name? We'll have to research that. Does somebody know the answer? Dog Mom, thank you very much.
I'm just making check marks, Judge, so
I appreciate your continued
I
support.
don't repeat myself.
Yes, because that would be the worst thing I can imagine today.
Yeah. I apologize if I've already asked you this question. I remember you testifying that you yourself had spoken to Aunt Lynette, correct?
Yes, I had.
Did you receive any information helpful to you in locating Alyssa?
No, Alyssa was not there.
Thank you, Nicole, for the quick and accurate answer. John Doe being used as a placeholder for a substitute name on legal documents in England, and it morphed into a reference for the common man.
In the course of your investigation, did you discover that the defendant had some military experience?
Yes, he was in the U.S. Army from 1968 to 1970.
And what about, we've had some testimony about
2 years.
a deputy sheriff. Where would that have been?
Yeah, he was a deputy sheriff with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office from 1970 to 1974.
Did you also find evidence that he had done private investigation work?
Yes, we found business cards indicating he was a private investigator.
PI, huh? He specializes in camera placement. It's a murder trial. Stepfather accused of murdering his stepdaughter. No body. It was a cold case. It's over 20 years ago. Lots of circumstantial evidence and very little to go on. Some states it's actually difficult to become a PI. You have to do an apprenticeship, have years of experience under an established investigator.
You mentioned that not only as a patrol officer, but then as in your duties when you were assigned to the missing persons unit, that you were familiar with reports like this. Either you call them runaway reports or missing juvenile reports, correct?
Yes.
In your experience, how are the majority of those resolved?
The majority of them resolve within days or weeks. Typically, a runaway goes to a friend's house or another family member's house. They, sometimes they'll even go to school still, even though they've ran away from their primary residence. But they typically are found within weeks or months, or days or weeks, actually.
Welcome, ATX Pity Mom. Good to have you here. Thank you so much for being a member. Make sure you take your reserved seat on the front row.
Runaway notes in your career if we want to call this note a runaway note, it's a note that talks about her leaving. How many of those have you found in your experience?
In my experience, it's pretty rare for a runaway to leave a note just because they are willfully leaving their house. They're trying to get away from their parents or their home situation. So they're not typically going to leave clues of where they're going. They just leave.
Now, I'm going to be switching back to my laptop.
Are we going to need to take a break to let that happen? This is just good parenting. It takes a village sometimes.
I hope.
And having parents on the same page, or at least communicating with the friends of the friends' parents, is oftentimes a good thing. Not always, but oftentimes. I wonder what evidence Sarah has that that would be the site that her body would be hidden at.
And if Mr. Jackson will be kind enough to show me how to do this again.
I think he charges extra for IT work.
We do need a break. He doesn't know how to connect his computer to the projector.
It should. No, it's on them. But may
Jenny's-
we approach? It can be off the record.
Yes.
Okay, so they go off the record here just for a minute. So much evidence has been excluded in this trial. It's. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to get to see the defendant. This is the only time we get to see him is when the counsel moves, because he's positioned where he's hiding and can't be seen. That's the defendant, 75 years old. Judge is very patient. Does allow for very long pauses as people are trying to get things in order. That wheelchair looks strictly functional and probably not comfortable to sit in all day. It's my belief that he's not paralyzed, but just has difficulty walking and standing. Currently is incarcerated. I believe held without bond. He's in the jail, not in prison. He did serve time in prison for the explosives issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to resolve a quick issue. This should not take more than a couple of minutes. I'll just ask you to go back to the jury room for a few minutes. You can leave everything in the courtroom. Please remember the admonition. The jury is now excused.
As the jury leaves, I will say the judge is very good, especially where the jury has said, we can't hear unless the attorneys are standing at a microphone. The second they wander from a microphone, the judge is like, back in place. Move back over. Get in front of that mic.
Yeah, maybe. That's his answer.
Speaking of mic, I have a hot mic. Is that Jan? Was it Jan? Is that the name? The pro se defendant? I think that's going on right now as well. We haven't had, I don't think we've had a pro se since Brooks. GPR is really tough to use, and it's an art form. Saying this from some friends who have used this and have tried it. Defendant has hearing issues, and so the headphones.
Find hours and hours, countless hours of audio tapes and videotapes. Why did you record so much?
Why do I record so much? Videos are recorded because I love my family.
Weren't these surveillance cameras in the house?
Those are for my protection of my house. Does that seem
So
unusual
for
to you?
security?
Yeah, most of it's for security. Why? Because I want to spy on everybody?
Why didn't you hang on to those things that could have proven that you're not to blame? The surveillance video from the day Alyssa disappeared. The audio recording of that phone call you
There was
say
nothing
she made.
on the tape. They were told that.
Okay, so it sounds like you cut out that part. Okay, cool.
Okay, because that's the next part, I think.
Good to go? All right. Jury can come back.
They were just affirming that there was a part during this video that they were going to play that said, what about the allegations of SA?
Because it was like taken from like different parts of the interview and clipped together.
Apparently, defense is saying that they had selectively edited this clip, taken from different parts of the interview and put it together. But they've now it sounds like they've cut something out, which means it has been edited. It's not delivered in the manner it's being presented, which could also be a problem.
We are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Mr. Imbordino, you may resume your direct examination of the witness whenever you're ready.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, I would move the introduction of Exhibit 97, the 2 clips from prime time.
Any objection?
Not
Oh,
for
go ahead.
Not for defense.
Exhibit 96. That was 97?
Yes, sir.
97 is admitted.
Detective, did you watch, watch, I guess is a better word, a primetime broadcast involving Mr. Kionis talking with the defendant about Alyssa's case?
Yes, it was Primetime Crime is the name of the program.
And when was that broadcast?
I believe August of 2009.
And have you watched a recording of it?
I have, yes.
And is there a portion of it where Mr. Kionis is asking the defendant about the surveillance camera and phone recordings?
Yes.
They find hours and hours, countless hours of audio tapes and videotapes. Why did you record so much?
Why do I record so much? The videos are recorded because I love my family.
But weren't these surveillance cameras in the house?
Those are for my protection of my house. Does that seem
So
unusual?
for security?
Yeah, most of it's for security. Why? Because I want to spy on everybody?
Why didn't you hang on to those things that could have proven that you're not to blame? The surveillance video from the day Alyssa disappeared. The audio recording of that phone call you
There was
say
nothing
she made.
on the tape. They were told that.
That sound familiar?
Yes, that's from the program.
Now, is there another another section where the defendant is he's asked, did you molest Alyssa, correct?
Yes.
It's a very effective pregnant pause.
Did you ever do anything sexual with your stepdaughter?
No. Why would I do that? They have no proof whatsoever, anything other than rumors, innuendos, and lies.
If they have no proof, that doesn't mean you didn't do it.
Well, again, there's only 2 people that can confirm whether I did it or didn't. One is me, and the other is Alyssa. Alyssa's not here, and I'm sitting here. And all I can say till hell freezes over, I didn't do a damn thing to my daughter.
Very firm statement there. It's interesting that they go to there's no proof and there are only 2 people who know, and I'm one of them.
And while you would agree with me that he denies having done anything to his daughter.
That's correct.
But he's absolutely correct. The only people that would know would be her and him.
That's correct.
And she's not here.
Correct.
There might be some words in there that we're filtering out because YouTube doesn't like them. If it's essay related, that could be. It's a very bold response, and the order, the words he chose were very unique, very interesting.
Your Honor, I wonder, could we approach for a moment?
On or off the record?
Off is fine.
Off? Okay.
We're approaching again. Let's see if we can see the defendant one more time. See, it would have been nice to get a reaction. He looks pretty much the same as he did before. So Christy, yeah, the essay accusations are not going to be admitted, but the judge has said that because there's this contract that the defendant wrote that is admissible, and he brings up in there that it didn't happen, the statement that it didn't happen is admissible, and then he ties this interview and the discussion into it because it's another statement that it didn't happen, and so he's saying I've ruled that is allowed to be in there, so I'm going to allow this part as well. The allegations and that are brought up, those are the defendant's words. He's saying there are allegations, there are accusations. I forget the exact terminology, but those are the words he chose to say about this. And so that's what the defense did not like. They did not want those words, but it was a statement by the defendant. So, yeah. He was brash in his answer, concerned about his response. This guy doesn't get much airtime. He's got a sharp haircut, though. Looks good. Rudy, we need more information about this 300. We need to go back on the bank account and see when that was pulled, what the date was. It was a week or two before that $300 was transferred from the dad's account to the daughter's account. And why? Why would you transfer $300 when she has her own job? She has $1,800 in the bank. Or at the time, she probably had, $1,500, $1,600. Our very own addict Ryan Applesnapple attempting to make his way into the courtroom today. Just make sure you follow all of the judge's admonitions and courtroom rules while you're there. We'd hate to have you not be able to witness the whole thing you want to be there for. Let's see. How long ago did the girl go missing? 2001. May 17th, 2001 was the last time anyone saw her. The search of the home was conducted in 2008 after they'd moved out and moved across the street from it. They did get the restraints figured out. They removed the restraints that were causing the problem. They still have other restraints in place. So think of this. Let me see if I can bring this up here. This note we keep talking about. Come on. My computer does not want to work at all. We're going to go back and talk about this note a little bit as soon as I get my computer to play nicely.
Move the admission of Exhibit 100.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 100 is admitted.
Detective, the surveillance videos, we've covered the one, and we show the one with Alyssa and Mr. Lockman, correct?
Correct.
There was another one with Alyssa on the couch with a Mr. Stanley, correct?
Correct.
And was that provided to you, or did you find it during the search?
It was provided to Detective Anderson.
And do I understand you correctly that the two, I need to clarify this, the two videos of the same interaction between Alyssa and Mr. Lockman, one was found during the search
Correct.
And one was provided to Detective Anderson?
That's correct.
I always hate this part. That's the last question I have, I believe, of this witness.
Very well.
I always hate this part.
Thank you, Mr. Imbordino. Cross-examination, Ms. Hicks.
Obviously, that's his decision to make, A. Colburn, but I'd say 99% chance no, does not. When we have another break, we're going to look at the note a little bit. We're going to pull it up and review it together. Now that we know about this $300 bank account transfer. Raises some questions.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, Detective, just a couple of minutes ago, Mr. Imbordino showed you a clip of Mike during a primetime interview on 2020.
Yes.
And the narrator asked him why he didn't keep the tapes that he had.
Correct.
And the clip showed a response that said, well, there was nothing on the tape.
Yes.
But that's not the whole comment, right? There's actually more that he said.
In the clip that was played here, or?
Yes, I'm just saying, in that clip, in that segment, there was more that Mr. Turney said that wasn't showed.
Yes, he said they were told there was nothing on it.
Well, he said they were told that there was nothing on it, but also that he told Detective Schoenfelder about the tape, and Detective Schoenfelder told him, no, I don't need this, this is just a runaway.
In the clip that was played, I don't think Detective Schoenfelder was mentioned.
No, not in the clip that was played. It was cut off before that was shown.
Again, I can't recall that Detective Schoenfelder was mentioned in the primetime crime episode.
I mean, Detective, you've reviewed it, right?
The episode?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm assuming you've reviewed the transcript.
Yes.
Detective, it was disclosed. Do you have it? I see that you have your laptop. Would you like to refresh your recollection?
Of the transcript?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to. I don't have a copy of that, so it's 79 pages, I believe, or something like that.
We might have a long break. Yeah, now the jury's paying attention. Here's the thing. If they start showing this entire video, even though it's a video within a video and it's really old, it's possible to get a copyright strike for airing that video. $79 pages. You should be able to, if you have the transcript, you should be able to do a quick find function and search for the name and find it. Hopefully it doesn't have to read all 79 pages. I don't want to get in trouble. We're playing very follow the rules.
So, sir, you watched the whole 2020 interview, right?
I did, yes.
So you're aware that the clip that was just showed was spliced together different segments of the interview?
That's what we talked about.
Yes.
And you had mentioned that you didn't remember the statement about Detective Schoenfelder, right?
I don't believe that was in the primetime crime episode.
Okay. Would it help if I refresh your recollection?
Sure.
May I approach, Your Honor?
He says no, and he's like, sure. He does not want his recollection refreshed here. Let's see if hopefully just headphones. Does she have headphones? Oh, it may be the transcript. They're looking at the transcript. This is good. Oh, she's going to show the other side.
So, Detective, I just showed you a transcript of the 2020 interview.
Yes.
And in that transcript, I showed you a couple of statements that Mr. Turney made to the narrator.
Yes, in the transcript of the, not in the
Yes.
actual broadcast interview.
In the transcript.
Yes.
Yes. And in the transcript, Mr. Turney said, I saved it and said, do you want me to give you this tape? A detective, Schoenfelder, told me. He said, no, man, this is just a runaway. I don't need all that stuff.
Are you asking me if that's in the
Yes.
transcript? Yes.
Okay.
Counsel, just for everybody's clarification, there was a mention of Primetime Live and there was a mention of 2020. Are those the same thing?
It's
the same company.
It's the same thing. Primetime Live, that was what I was referring to. There's not a separate one.
Okay.
Yeah.
2020 is the current company who's providing the cameraman for this court case. Why are they not objecting to that as hearsay, where it's a statement where somebody else told?
Detective, there was a note found in this case in Alyssa's bedroom on May 17th, 2001.
Are you asking me that? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
A handwriting expert analyzed it.
Yes.
Ooh.
It was Alyssa's handwriting.
Correct.
And in the note, Alyssa stated that she was going to California.
This is the note right here.
It said that she took $300 from her father.
Yes.
Now, you spoke to Mike's kids during your investigation, correct?
Yes.
So you know that Mike kept cash around the house.
That's what they said, yes.
Okay. And you reviewed the banking records in this case.
Yes.
And there wasn't any transaction history, really lengthy transaction history. But you did see that 2 days before her disappearance, Alyssa deposited a check at Desert Schools Federal Credit Union.
Yes.
She deposited $229.81.
Her week's paycheck.
Withdrew $200 cash.
Yes.
About half of her paycheck. More or less.
So 2 weeks paycheck.
Now, Detective, you testified on direct that you've worked with runaways before.
Yes, for 15 years.
So you know that cash is an untraceable fund.
Yes.
It's important to have cash on hand to survive without being tracked.
Yes.
And as you said, you've worked with runaways for 15 years, so you've encountered very many different scenarios. So you know that sometimes with runaways, teenagers leave home, but they return.
Yes.
Or they leave home and contact family later.
Yes.
Or they leave home and something happens to them.
Yes.
And you know that runaways are a vulnerable population.
Yes.
In your line of work, I'm sure you've encountered victims of sex trafficking.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware of risk factors for victims of sex trafficking.
Yes.
Mental health issues or disorders.
Yes.
Family rejection due to identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. Family rejection due to identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer.
Yes.
Drug use.
Yes.
Academically off track.
Yes.
Living in an area with a large influx of cash-rich workers or tourists.
Yes, that could be.
And runaways.
Yes.
Now, going back to Alyssa's bank records, there was one transaction that you reviewed from May, that happened on May 15th, correct?
I'd have to look at, if you could show me the exhibit again, I could.
Let me see.
This is a logical progression of questions. She's building something instead of just randomly depositing bricks around the schoolyard. She's stacking them to build a defense here. This is the same bank record, I believe, that we just saw. Maybe it'll be put up on the Elmo. We can all watch it again, maybe. There are several points where I've expected objections and not heard them from the prosecution. Mistrial because of COVID? I've never heard that one before.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Yes. Alyssa, when you reviewed the banking records, there was one transaction from May 15th.
That's correct.
And that's a transaction that we discussed before, that she deposited $229.81 and withdrew $200.
Actually, I'm not seeing the 229 now that I'm looking at the records. There is a transfer of funds into her account for $200 on the 1st. On the 4th, there's a withdrawal for $200. There's a deposit on the 15th of $10.81, and then a deposit on the 21st of $285.74. That's what I'm looking at here.
I think they're looking at different records.
So, Detective, as part of your review of this case file, you reviewed other financial records, correct?
Yes.
And in those other financial records, there was a mention of the paycheck of the $229 and then the $200 cash, right?
Can you? I don't know which bank records you're referring to. You're talking to Alyssa's bank records?
Yes.
Yeah, Alyssa's bank records are right here, and no, there's no. I don't see a deposit of a check for that amount.
Okay. Now, sir, did you review the banking records analysis that was done by Detective Walker from MCAO?
I did not know.
No? Okay. Now, Detective, you had mentioned on direct that at some point, Mr. Turney closed Alyssa's bank account.
Yes.
And you said that he did that because he wanted to cut her off.
That's what he told. I believe he told ABC that.
Okay. But you left out the rest of the statement, that he was told that if he closed it, then she would be more likely to come back because she would be desperate.
Yes, I believe he said something like that.
Now, Detective, you spoke with many people who knew Alyssa.
That's correct.
You read letters that she wrote her friends.
Yes.
You got a pretty good idea of the type of person that she was.
Yes.
Reviewed her school records.
Yes.
You knew she wasn't doing great in school.
I believe her GPA was 2.44 at Paradise Valley. So she was doing C+, B-
Sure.
academics.
She had an IEP,
That's correct.
an individualized education plan,
Correct.
and you saw documentation of that.
I did.
You saw that that IEP was in place her junior year.
Yes.
Now, Alyssa attended 2 high schools,
Yes.
Barry Goldwater.
And Paradise Valley High School.
Correct. You were aware that when Alyssa was a student at Barry Goldwater, she was skipping school.
That's what was stated to us by the defendant, yes. Or he documented that in multiple letters that he wrote.
Well, no, I'm not talking about what my client said. I'm talking about what other people told you.
Yeah, some of her friends said
Yes.
that too, yes.
She was drinking underage,
Yes.
experimenting with mushrooms.
I'm going to object. This is hearsay, Your Honor.
The judge is buffering.
Counsel, please approach on the record.
Approach on the record. Still a sidebar. We don't get to hear, just because it says on the record, we don't get to hear it. So we've got little beeps happening. But it is going to be recorded. Okay, so this is interesting because this was brought up before, and we did get into the same grounds that the Alyssa allegedly with friends had been using. We know she had been using marijuana. Yeah, let me see who's at my house.
The objection is sustained. Counsel may ask your next question whenever you're ready.
Sorry, I was the only one here. So when the door opened, I wanted to know who it was. The family's back. They went swimming. They're back. Anyway, we know that this has been brought up before, that they were using other drugs. And so we'll see what happens here. Did I miss anything? The mics are back on.
Now, Detective, you spoke to several of Alyssa's friends.
Yes.
And it was well known that she used marijuana.
Objection. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Now, Detective, marijuana is more culturally accepted now, right?
Yes.
But this was in 2023.
No, it wasn't 2023.
This was late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
Marijuana possession was illegal in Arizona.
Yes.
Not even medical marijuana.
That's correct.
Now, you work in law enforcement.
Not anymore.
Well, you
retired.
did.
I did, yes.
For a very long time. Okay. So you have a general sense of what kinds of cases were being prosecuted in Maricopa County?
I didn't track every case that was prosecuted in Maricopa County.
Sure, but you know generally that there are some things that are prosecuted and something that aren't.
Objection. Relevance.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
So you know that up until 2020, Maricopa County was still prosecuting possession of marijuana cases.
I believe so, yes.
And unlike today, dispensaries didn't exist.
Correct.
So Alyssa had to be getting weed from somewhere.
Yes.
Friends,
I don't know where she got marijuana from.
drug dealers.
I don't know where she got marijuana from.
The witness could be, it could be your dad for all I know. He could respond like that.
Now, Detective, you talked a little bit about the lack of forensic evidence in this case.
Yes.
And as part of your investigation, the Phoenix Police Department searched 2 homes.
Correct.
One that belonged to, or one where Mike and Sarah were living at the time in 2008.
Yes.
And then the home where Mike, Alyssa, and Sarah lived when Alyssa went missing.
Correct.
The carpets were pulled up.
Yes.
The house was analyzed with luminol.
Yes.
Now, Detective, luminol is a substance that the police use to detect blood.
Correct.
Luminol can also detect blood even after someone cleans or removes it.
It can, yes.
And there were no signs of blood.
That's correct.
Brought out the cadaver dogs.
Yes.
No body parts.
They did not indicate any remains.
You didn't find any either.
No.
So there were no physical signs that a death occurred.
No physical evidence, no.
Now, you also searched the car that belonged to Mr. Turney in 2001.
I didn't personally know.
Well, as part of your investigation, somebody searched the car, right?
Detective Anderson did, yes.
Again, no physical evidence in the car that a death occurred.
I don't believe so, no.
Now, Detective, I want to talk to you now about the surveillance cameras that were inside the house.
Yes.
I first want to start with the camera that was inside the home. So this was back in the late 90s to early 2000s.
Yes.
Nanny cams didn't exist.
No.
Ring cameras didn't exist.
No.
So the camera in the living room was a fairly primitive technology.
Yeah, I never saw the camera itself, but I assume so.
Videos weren't digitally recorded.
I don't believe so.
They weren't automatically uploaded to the cloud.
I don't think there was a cloud back then.
Right. So these were physical tapes that you found, that the Phoenix Police Department found.
Yes.
Tapes of birthday parties.
Yes.
Family events.
Yes.
Trips to Disneyland.
Yes.
Recordings of TV shows.
Yes.
Movies.
Yes.
And Mr. Turney had surveillance both inside the home and outside the home.
Yes.
And we do have some recordings from the surveillance, right?
Yes.
But as you testified, there wasn't a tape from May 17th, 2001.
Correct.
But there were also a lot of days without recordings.
Correct.
There wasn't, for example, a tape for every single day in 2001 except May 17th.
That's correct.
Now, Detective, you're aware that there was also a phone recording system on the phone in the kitchen.
There's a recording system on the landline of the home, yes.
But you weren't sure which one it was on.
I believe it was the landline of the home.
Okay. Just a moment, Your Honor.
Oh, man. That's funny.
So, Detective, I know it's been a while since we've had landline phones, but you're aware that if you have a landline, you could have multiple phones in the home, right?
Yes.
And it would all be connected to the same line.
Yes.
Okay. So, Detective, you reviewed tapes that were recordings of conversations on the phone.
Yes.
There were recordings of Alyssa talking to her friends.
Yes.
But there were also recordings of Sarah talking on the phone.
Yes.
Recordings of Mike on the phone.
Yes.
Phone calls made to stores.
Yes.
to school,
Yes.
other family members.
Yes.
It was a system that Mr. Turney had been using for years.
Like I said, I think the oldest tape I found was from the 1970s.
Sure. So before Alyssa was born, too.
Yes.
Now, you said in the defense interview that there is no evidence that the phone recording system was targeted toward Alyssa.
Well, I mean, no direct evidence besides, Mike's explanation of his recording of all phone calls is due to the many lawsuits he was filing. That was his explanation of it.
Well, I'm just asking you if that's what you said in the defense interview.
I likely said that, yes.
Detective, do you recall when you went through some of these recorded phone conversations, a call where, and I don't want to get into the details of the call, but there was a call where Mike was talking on the phone and Alyssa picked up on another receiver. Do you recall this?
Yeah, that probably occurred a number of times in the recordings I listened to.
So based on this, you know that at least at that time in the house, there was more than one phone.
Yes.
And we talked you talked about this a little bit on direct, but you reviewed the phone calls. The phone records, so you know that there was a call made to the Turney household on May 24th.
Yes.
From California.
Yes.
But you don't know if that call was picked up on the kitchen phone?
No, the records don't indicate that.
Okay. Or another phone?
I don't know.
Now, during your investigation, you found one tape recording system for a phone, right?
In the new house they were living in?
Correct.
Yes, I believe there was a recording system there.
But you only found one recording system?
I believe so. And again, that's the house they were living in when we did the search warrant in 2008, not the other house. So I don't know what recording system was there in 2001.
Do you have any evidence that there were multiple recording systems?
In 2001?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay. And Detective, I'm sure you recall from your review of those phone calls that a lot of these calls ended abruptly or never started back up again.
Yeah, there were instances where the recording would stop in mid-conversation.
And Detective, going back to the call on the 24th, Michael never said that call was recorded, right?
I don't believe he's ever stated that.
And we don't know if there ever was a recording.
We haven't found it.
She's been missing since May 17th of 2001. Tracy.
Detective, you said that you never found it, but we don't know if it exists.
Again, it was never found, so I don't know that it exists.
Detective, you impounded the recording systems in this case?
Either Detective Anderson or I did, yes.
But you don't have any personal knowledge of how those systems work?
I don't know.
Now, Detective, you spoke with James Turney during your investigation, right?
Which James Turney are you referring to?
Michael's son.
Okay, yeah. I also spoke to his brother, James.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. You were trying to get information about what he might know about her disappearance.
Yes.
And you specifically asked him about a phone call that Alyssa made to her father, Mike Turney, on May 24th, 2001.
If you can refresh my memory of what you're referring to,
Sure.
I'm not.
And it might be helpful if you have, it's Bates 116 that I'm going to be referring to in this line of questioning.
Can you give me the supplement number? I don't.
Sure. It looks like supplement 38.
Okay, give me 1 second. There's 2,000 pages here, so it takes me a while to find it.
He's just quickly skimming through 2,000 pages. Love the facial expressions as he searches for this. He doesn't like reading.
Can you let me know which, I mean, it's a
I think it's,
lengthy supplement, so what area are you referring to?
so it's Bates one. Do you have a Bates stamp on there or no?
I do not have a Bates stamp. Can you tell me what page number it is?
Yeah. I don't think I have that exhibit.
They're dealing with different versions of the evidence as far as the document. So the Bates stamp and the page numbers are not going to match up.
Maybe just show me what you're looking at. I can find it online.
There's no video input. Please check source selection. They're trying to find a specific spot in this evidence to refresh his recollection. I think they found it. This has been a long time coming to court, Jessica. She went missing in 2001, just now coming to trial. He served time.
Detective, I just showed you
Served 7 years in prison.
a page from one of the supplements that you wrote.
Yes.
And in that report, there's a discussion of a phone call that Michael Turney received.
Yes.
Now, James told you that his dad told him that after he received a call, or that he received this call, but he could not remember what Mike claimed Alyssa had told him.
Yes.
James did not tell you that his dad told him there was only static on the other end of the line, and that his father said, "Alyssa, is that you?"
No.
Now, as a detective, you know that police reports are written close in time to an interview
Yes.
because they need to be accurate,
Yes.
reliable.
Yes.
If the case goes to trial, the state relies on them,
Yes.
defense relies on them.
Yes.
Now, if James had told you that there was only static on the other line, would you have included that in your report?
I believe so, yes.
It would have been significant.
Yes.
It was different than what Mike had told other people.
Yes.
And you would have wanted to include that in your report,
Yes.
but you didn't.
No.
Okay. Now, you interviewed James Turney, and I'm referring to Michael's son, once on January 6, 2009.
Yeah, I interviewed him multiple times.
But there was a formal interview that was recorded, right?
My interviews with him were recorded, yes.
There's only one recorded interview.
I believe there's another one that's recorded too.
Well, in that specific interview, he did not once mention that there was static on the other line of the call.
In the interview that we're talking about now, no.
Now, Detective, I want to talk more about that call from California. You reviewed phone records from May 24th, 2001.
Yes.
And those records show a call from the phone number 909-683-9734.
Yes.
The call took place roughly at 5 a.m.
Yes, I believe so.
Lasted about 28 seconds.
I believe it was 29.3 seconds.
So during your investigation, you learned that 909 is a California area code.
Yes.
And 1 week after Alyssa's disappearance, there was a phone call from a California phone number to the Turney's home.
Yes.
And Mr. Turney told the Phoenix Police Department it was Alyssa.
Yes.
Now, you weren't on the case at this point, but you reviewed the file.
Yes.
So you know that the Phoenix Police Department didn't get records of that phone call.
No.
And the phone records would have been important because they would have shown where the phone number, or I guess where the phone number was associated with, right?
Yes.
And as part of your investigation, you know that Mr. Turney took matters into his own hands. He wrote letters trying to get those records.
Yes.
He wrote a letter to his congressman.
Yes, he filed a lawsuit against Quest for the number.
And he got the records.
Yes.
Now, the California number was linked to a gas station in Riverside, California.
Yes.
It's about 70 miles from Torrance, California.
I don't know the exact mileage.
But Alyssa's aunt lived in Torrance.
Yes.
Okay. Detective, I want to talk about the written agreements between Alyssa and her father.
Okay.
We've discussed this afternoon about contracts that Michael wrote.
Yes.
And Detective, you're aware that Mike has drafted contracts for Alyssa.
Yes.
But he's also drafted them for Charity's parents.
Yes.
Now, Alyssa went to live with her brother, Michael Seth Turney, in May of 2000.
Yes, Michael, Seth, and John.
And on May 19th, 2000, Alyssa signed a contract, or signed a statement, which was titled, Statement of Things About My Life.
I believe so, yes.
This was a document with 16 bullet points.
I believe so, yes.
The majority of bullet points referred to drugs and sex.
Yes.
My father has never given me marijuana.
Yes.
My father has never allowed me to use marijuana.
Yes.
My father has discouraged me from engaging in sexual activities with anyone underage.
Yes.
So, I mean, of the 16 bullet points, there was also 4 that referenced abuse generally.
I'd have to look at it to, I mean, I'm going by memory, but if you want to show it to me, I can.
I'm not sure if she wants him to read these, or if she wants it to just be glossed over. Right, she has to tread softly here. They're going to show the prosecution briefly. Gandalf is trying to remember his password on his computer. Looks like a Microsoft login screen. He's guessed correctly. Good job. The password was password.
Thank you.
Detective, I've handed you a piece of paper. Do you recognize that piece of paper, that writing?
I do.
Okay. And for the record, this is Exhibit 68. Now, Detective, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It is Exhibit 68.
Okay.
I don't know if you were asking me that or not.
I was just saying it for the record.
Okay.
And then, Detective, did you come across this document as part of your search of the house?
Yes.
Okay. So, Detective, I asked you a question about whether or not there was 4 bullet points that referred to abuse generally.
Can you tell me which numbers you're referring to? I mean, there's 16 points, so I can,
Right. So,
I mean, I could read it if you like.
well, it's let me see.
The first bullet point says,
Read
my
it.
father.
Hold on.
She does not want it read. She
Why don't
does
you
not
give
want
me
it read. Hold on, wait. She wants to just talk about this generally. Do you see how quickly she's like, hold on, wait, don't. He does not want to read, but this line of questioning is so difficult. He doesn't know what they're getting at. We want it read. She does not want it read in court. That was funny.
So, bullet point number 1.
Well, hold on. Are you asking him to read from the exhibit?
No, I'm just to refresh his recollection.
Yes.
So, bullet point number 1, number 4, 11, and 12.
Okay. What is your question?
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
All right. So as part of that, those 4 bullet points says, my father has never physically or sexually abused my sister Sarah. My father has never physically or sexually abused any of his children.
Well, you skipped number 1. Is that you referred to 1 for?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're going out of order then. Okay. So yeah, the one you just mentioned is bullet point number 4. It says, my father, Mike Turney, has never allowed me to physically or sexually abuse my younger sister, Sarah.
She's like, stop, don't read, don't read.
So there's bullet points in there that don't just relate to Alyssa, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had testified on direct that Alyssa was made to sign a statement saying that Mike had never abused her.
Yeah, that's in this contract right here.
But that was the focus of the contract.
Bullet point number 1 says,
Sure. But there were other things in the contract.
Don't
right?
read it. Whatever you do.
16 bullet points.
Don't read
yes.
this.
Okay.
Number 1 says, my father, Mike Turney, has never physically or sexually abused me.
That wasn't what I asked you.
You're asking me what the contract says, ma'am.
Okay. We can move on.
The objection was non-responsive. Objection non-responsive. There's not a question. He's just reading. There's ways to object.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
She wants to talk about it, but not say what it is. And yeah, now the question she's asked has brought up an answer about sexual abuse. That's where they're at. Okay, she's asked the question, and he's responded. She's probably going to try to get that stricken from the record, would be my guess.
Now, Detective, there's also another written statement that you found through your investigation.
I found thousands of written statements, ma'am. Which one are you referring to?
Well, this one was specifically referenced during your testimony, a parental, custodian, and child agreement.
Yes.
Okay. May 23rd, 2000 is the date.
Yes.
4 days after Alyssa went to live with her brother.
I'm not sure the exact date she went to live with her brother.
But roughly around the same time.
I know it was May of 2000.
Okay. 13 paragraphs.
I believe so, yes.
Would you like to see a copy to refresh your recollection?
I would, thanks.
Okay.
Not yet.
You know, as one of the the lead investigator. Guess what he is? The lead investigator on this. It must be super frustrating that so much of the evidence they've uncovered that drove them to prosecute in this case is not being allowed in. So yeah, he's trying to open that
And then
door.
for the record, this is State's Exhibit 110.
Okay.
So, sir, you briefly read over that statement.
Yes.
There's 13 paragraphs.
13 bullet points, I guess, yes.
Okay. And the purpose of it was to give temporary guardianship to Michael Seth Turney.
Yes.
There were rules in place for when she returned home.
Yes.
Can't bring boys over without permission.
Which bullet point are you referring to, ma'am? So number 10 is what you're referring to?
Yes, number 10. She won't bring boys home without permission.
It says never bring a male friend to the home of her father.
Okay. She can't date until she's 18.
Again, which bullet point are you referring to? So number 12 is
Yeah. So detective number 12 refers to a rule that she can't date until she's 18.
it says that any and all male friends she associates with in exchange of any sort of affection between a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Sir, I'm not asking you to read it.
But the statement you're saying, you're interpreting is different than what I'm seeing on the paper.
Okay. Then just say no.
Whatever you do.
Okay.
Don't read it. Stay away from one at all costs.
She can't use marijuana.
Yes, that's one of the bullet points, number 9.
She'll enter a drug rehab program.
Yes, that's number 13.
And then if you go to the first page, there's an acknowledgement that she's not moving in with her brother for any of the following reasons. Do you see what I'm referring to?
Is that bullet point number 3?
I believe so. There's several bullet points underneath it. Do you see that?
Yes, there's A through J underneath that.
Yes. So acknowledgement that she's not moving out for any of the following reasons. lack of adequate food,
Lack of food is what it says.
okay, neglect,
Yes.
drug abuse,
Yes.
sexual abuse,
Yes.
physical abuse,
Yes.
sexual abuse of her sister Sarah,
Yes.
physical abuse of her sister Sarah.
Yes.
So, again, this custody agreement mentions physical and sexual abuse,
It does, yes.
but it's not the focus of the contract.
Well, objection. That calls for speculation.
The witness may answer if he knows.
It's one of the bullet points in the contract.
Okay. And Judge, how are we doing on time today?
We'll end around 4:30.
Okay. Detective, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the phone records that you reviewed in this case.
Yes.
You reviewed Mike's cell phone records from the time that Alyssa went missing.
The cell phone bills that were found in the search, yes.
Sure. And do you have a copy of that in front of you? Would you like me to provide you with a bait stamp?
If I can refer to my report.
Sure.
Matthew, we'll go ahead and text this over to her so she can use this verbatim to prevent any embarrassing readings coming in that she does not want read in front of the jury. This is a case from 2001. It's when the victim went missing. The first search warrant served in this case was in 2008. The family had already moved. They searched the home they moved from and the home they moved to, which was right across the street.
And Detective, just for reference, I'm referring to Bates 994.
Yeah, I don't have the Bates number. Is it supplement 275?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, I have that in front of me.
So as part of your review, you discovered that there were several phone calls made between Mike and Alyssa on May 17th.
Yes.
The first one at 10:05 a.m.
Yes.
It was about a minute long.
Yes.
The second one at 10:24 a.m.
Yes.
1 minute long.
Yes.
And then we just discussed this earlier, but one at 1:09 p.m.
Yes.
7 minutes long.
Yes.
Now, there's also several other phone calls that are made that afternoon. There's one made at 3:41 p.m.
Yes.
4:41 p.m.
Yes.
4:57 p.m.
Yes.
5 p.m.
Yes.
And then at 5:01 p.m., there's a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
5:16 p.m., a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
5:17 p.m., a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
5:56, call to the home.
See if we can put this up on the screen for you guys so you can see what we're doing here.
I don't believe that one is a call to the home phone.
The document they're looking at right here is going to be...
Well, at 6:22, there was another call to an unknown number.
So 18:22 hours.
Yes, for 7 minutes.
6:30, a call to the home phone.
And thank you. This
Yes,
comes
for
from
1 minute.
Discord as the gavel drops.
6:30,
You
a
see the
call to
watermark there.
Alyssa's cell.
6:33.
I'm sorry, 6:33.
1 minute. Yes.
Okay. And then there's phone calls for the rest of the night.
Yes.
Okay. Till the late hours.
Early hours.
I think the last call is at 23:59 hours, so 11:59. Yes.
Okay. Now, Detective, as part of your investigation, you also reviewed cell phone records from June 2001.
For
Mr. Turney's cell phone.
Not in this supplement. I don't have that documented.
Judge, this might be a good place to stop and we can pick up tomorrow.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our evening recess. I'll ask you to be back in the jury room at 10:30 tomorrow morning. You can take everything with you as you leave the courtroom this evening. Please remember the admonition. Have a nice evening. See you tomorrow at 10:30. Jury's now excused.
Okay, so this concludes yesterday's proceedings. We are about to pick up after lunch on the morning from Arizona because they are about to begin. We do have our addict in the courtroom. Now, let's see. I'm actually getting some updates. The latest one is. Let me see if I can share this with you. Just 1 second. Bingo. Okay. It's up right here. This is on the courtroom wall just outside the court. Notice all witnesses in the case of State of Arizona versus Michael Roy Turney with the case number must remain outside the courtroom while court is in session.
Let the record reflect the presence
rule
of counsel and the defendant. The jury is not present. Anything for the record from the state? From the defense?
Nothing from defense.
All right. Have a nice evening. We'll see you tomorrow, 10:15. We are adjourned.
Okay. So as they adjourn, right there, we're going to get ready for the lunchtime, and then we're going to pick up. We're all caught up now. We're down on catch up. We are going to pick up with the same witness, so it's going to be Detective Stuart Summershoe when we return. He's the one who's on the stand right now. It's this guy right here. And they're not quite done with him. Still on cross. I think they flirted with the line. They flirted with that line. I think they made it clear that they didn't want that information brought in, so maybe the judge will rule the door has not been opened. But he did blurt out a few things, but they didn't ask to have it stricken. So if that's in there, I don't know. We'll see if on redirect if Gandalf is able to summon the strength to go there. Expect him to change his shirt and or tie. Yes, he will change during the break. We'll be on lunch, but he's actually sleeping for the night. I think I just missed a call from someone on the burner phone, and I apologize. I had the ringer turned down. Let's see. Saving this here so Samantha can copy paste after lunch. My mods are the best. They're getting ready for the next live stream to make it easier. The court is closed tomorrow. Yes, no, yes, it is, Sharon. Most definitely. The court is closed every Friday. We will still have Friday morning together. So even though they are not going to be meeting on Friday, we will have material to go over on Friday because we'll have Thursday night's material to go over. So we'll still have something, and then we'll have an early out for the weekend. Let's see. Can we speed up when Gandalf the prosecutor is up? I wish. We're going to be watching it live, so we will not be able to. Let's see. Anything else? It's Thursday at lunch. You know what that means? I do know what that means. That means that Matthew Harris Law PLLC, the YouTube channel for Matthew Harris Law PLLC, is releasing a new video, and we all have to watch it. I'm not saying we all have to like we should. We all, I think legally, we're required to watch Matthew Harris's new video. We can't watch it together here. We have to watch it individually and then come together and talk about it. While you're there over on the channel, please do participate in today's poll. I have not yet. I'm going to go take a look here right now and just see what's up on the poll. See if it's a question I dare answer or if I'm going to lose my. Oh, let's see. Here's the new videos: how to argue like a lawyer and win with a 4-step formula. Just barely launched 30 minutes ago. You can be one of. It says 20 views right now, so you could be one of the on the ground floor. This is an opportunity for you to get in on the ground floor of this video. Really, if you want your comment to be seen by potentially billions of people that could be exposed to videos on YouTube. Now is the time to watch Matthew Harris's video, make a comment, and you'll be right up there near the top. It's basically, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't know why you're still here, frankly. I'm not just kidding. We're going to watch that on lunch. We're going to wrap up with a quick, I'm going to watch it on lunch. You guys watch it as well and tell me what you think. Maybe we'll adopt how to argue like a lawyer techniques here on the live stream. Matthew, thank you very much. I will say, great friend, great mod, great YouTuber, great lawyer. Nicole as well. Appreciate your input today. Another friend of the program. Looking forward to more content from you. When's your vacation? Next week. But I'm not going to be gone all week. I'm planning on live streaming every morning as we talk about Sarah Boone stuff. Sort of getting us prepped for a court case if it moves forward. Got our fingers crossed. Probably won't, but we're gonna try anyway. Legally, is that a binding contract, and how am I to be recompensed for my time and lost wages? No, it's watching Matthew Harris's video. Is surely benefits for you. There's no loss. There's no loss. Okay, see everyone after lunch. What will I do with no court tomorrow? We're going to be here again, Caper, so catch up with us in the morning. We'll be here at least till lunch. We'll be back here after lunch. I think we're starting at 1:15, so you've got about 45 minutes for lunch, and then we'll be back. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone to make the day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again in about 45 minutes. Thank you very much. We're caught up. We will be live with the Michael Turney case when we come back, and it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be amazing. I wonder if there's going to be some more sparks flying between the witness and the defense as they flirt with the line. They do not want to open this door. They do not want to let this evidence in. So far, the judge has been on their side, but how they word their questions and what questions they ask and the answers that are given to them just might change everything. So stick around. We'll find out. Thanks, guys. We'll see you after lunch.
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?